Today, the NCAA will crown its Division I men's lacrosse champion. Today's game features the powers of the 1980s. In 1987, the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays of Baltimore won their third NCAA championship of the decade by defeating the Big Red of Cornell in the finals. And last year, the Syracuse Orangemen, playing in their beloved Carrier Dome, won their third title of the 80s by also beating the Big Red of Cornell. ESPN and the NCAA present the national championship game of the Division I men's lacrosse tournament. From Byrd Stadium on the campus of College Park, Maryland's University of Maryland, it's the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays taking on the defending national champions from Syracuse University. And a pleasant good day, everyone. I'm Tom Mees, and in just a few moments, two of the most tradition-laden programs in college lacrosse, the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays and the Syracuse Orangemen, will have at it. But how do they get to today's national championship game? Well, a couple of days ago, Syracuse took on the University of Maryland in one of the men's Division I semifinals. And early on in that game, in fact, before the game was 2 minutes old, the Gate brothers had an impact. First, it was Paul Gate with the first of 3 goals on the day, giving Syracuse an early lead. Not to be outdone, his twin brother Gary Gate added 5 goals and 2 assists as the Orange romped over the homestanding Terrapins 18-8. No wonder after the game, head coach Roy Simmons had a right to flash the number 1 side and feel confident entering today's game. In the second semifinal yesterday, Matt Panetta's third quarter goal brought Johns Hopkins into a 5-5 tie with North Carolina. And a few minutes later, Greg Kelly's goal gave Johns Hopkins the lead for good. The result, a 10-6 win and a date for Coach Don Zimmerman's Blue Jays in the finals today against Syracuse University. Back here at Byrd Stadium, I'm joined by our expert commentator, Leif Elsmo. And Leif, you talk about offense in college lacrosse, you have to begin with Syracuse.
Well, Tom, Syracuse says we play the game the way it should be played, and they certainly do. Wide open, a lot of transition, a lot of shots, and that's led by a dynamic quadrant of 4 players. And the two you really have to focus on that revolutionized the game the last 2 years are the Gate brothers, Gary and Paul. Gary, of course, with the air gate shot last year. Paul, equally as good, only one small notch down in the stats. These two guys are focused. They play on the same unit, Tom. That means if you put Petramala on one, the other's going to be open.
You mentioned Petramala. We're speaking of the first-team All-American defenseman at Johns Hopkins, Dave Petramala, in company with goaltender Quint Kesenick. If those two play at the top of their game, Johns Hopkins got a shot.
Well, they start at the top of the game. They're Division I All-Americans, the best in the game. Petramala and then Kesenick behind him. But there's only 2 of them. They're going to need 3 other guys to cover the full roster that Syracuse has. But those 2 guys, no question about it, critical that they have the best game of this year.
Revenge could be on the mind of the Orangemen today. Their only loss of the year, the season opener, by 1 goal at Johns Hopkins. What will happen today in College Park? We'll be back to find out in a moment.
This ESPN program is sponsored by Audi. Conform to the road, not the rules. Audi, the alternate route.
Why we call the Hopkins Blue Jays and the Orangemen of Syracuse the powers of the 80s. Here's a graphic reason why. Look at the way they've dominated the championship here in this decade of the 1980s. And these two teams met back on March 4th in the very first game of the year. The white team is Johns Hopkins, and on the 10-man ride, goaltender Palem gets beat. He was on the ride trying to pressure that ball out of bounds, and Matt Panetta scored his 3rd goal of the game as Johns Hopkins came away with a 14-13 victory before more than 12,000 delirious fans at the Homewood Field in Baltimore, Maryland. And there's a live look at the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays. We take a look at the series between these two teams in the 80s. Hopkins leading it 5-4. The Blue Jays, of course, coached by Don Zimmerman. And there is the Syracuse Orangemen, the defending national champions, coached by Roy Simmons Jr., getting set to try and repeat here in 1989. The goaltenders, Quint Kesenick, first-team All-American for the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays, a save percentage of over 65%, and he was excellent against North Carolina in the semifinal game for Johns Hopkins. On the other end of the field, number 10, Matt Palem, who was also very, very good in the goal against the University of Maryland Terrapins just a couple of days ago here in College Park. So there you have it. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins about ready to face off for the national championship. There's the field here at College Park, Maryland's Byrd Stadium. Another excellent crowd on a perfect weather day, 79 degrees. Humidity very comfortable indeed at 70%. The field is dry and it's so closely cut that you could almost call it AstroTurf. It'll be a very fast track here today. That should benefit both these teams, including, of course, Syracuse, which loves that up-and-down game. One of the keys today may be the face-offs, and if that is indeed the case, then this man, Joe Resin-Pollock, who is the specialist in the face-off category for Johns Hopkins, will play a big part. As you see, he won 14 out of 19 face-offs against North Carolina. Leif Hellsmo, he will be one of the key men we'll watch for the Blue Jays today.
No question about it. 75% against Carolina. That is unheard of. He was dramatic in that game. He'll have to be equally as impressive here. He did face off against Pratt Syracuse earlier this year, but that was the first game of the season for Syracuse. They feel that was not indicative of how good this team is as we look at Roy Simmons. They feel that Pratt has seasoned himself, and he's ready to face off against Don Zimmerman's Joe Resin-Pollock.
Well, I'll tell you, Zimmerman and Simmons, there's a contrast as well. Zimmerman, very uptight, almost a military aspect to his behavior. Boy, Simmons laid back, and hey, if we don't win the game, the sun will rise tomorrow.
And the teams reflect that kind of demeanor and style. Zimmerman right there has the best coaching staff in the country as far as intensity, and they always play great.
There is just a portion of the sun-spangled crowd we have here today at Byrd Stadium. Very well attended this tournament. They set a record in the semifinal round of over 20,200. And I'd guess we're at or maybe a little bit above that by the time they all come through the turnstiles today at Byrd Stadium in College Park, Maryland. Tom Mees with Leif Hellsmo, and the introduction's been made. The teams are taking the field, and we're taking a look. We talked about Resin-Pollock for Johns Hopkins. Kirk Pratt will be his opposite number on the face-off for Syracuse.
Tom, I mentioned Kirk Pratt in the sense that he faced off against Resin-Pollock the first game this year, and Simmons feels that he has seasoned so much since then. He feels good about this matchup, Pratt against Resin-Pollock. Of course, Resin-Pollock, again, 75% yesterday against Carolina. One of the big reasons they're here today.
Well, Syracuse, Matt Palom will defend the goal to your left, and Quint Kesenick may hear him banging the post with his stick. He'll defend the goal to the right.
Tom, look at this face-off in the wide shot. Syracuse may be the only team in the country to use their normal midfielders. The Gate brothers are on the wings. That's thinking all offense. Everybody else uses a long sticks pole, and Hopkins is no exception.
The face-off between Pratt and Resin-Pollock, and it's controlled by Kirk Pratt of Syracuse, and here come the Orangemen. Pratt hustling into the Hopkins zone.
You see the matchup right away. Petramala is taking Gary Gate. I feel Paul Gate, this will open the door for him to have a big day today.
And Paul Gate wanted to take the shot. Can't get away. Now he does. He scores! Just 19 seconds into this lacrosse match. Paul Gate. And it's 1-0 Syracuse.
All right, two guys of star quality on one midfield, and this is what happens. Gary Gate being occupied by Petramala. Double team against his great brother, Paul. And Paul comes in, beats two players, shoots right-handed. They said he doesn't have a right hand, Tom. He shot one there, and he beats the first team All-America. Watch this. Two guys he beats and then shoots right-handed, which is almost unheard of. They say he's all left, he's all left. Great opening move by Paul Gate.
And the other man who was bothering Gate, or trying to bother him from taking that shot, was Brian Volker, but Gate beat everybody, and it's 1-0 Syracuse. Pratt, Resin-Pollock again fighting with the faceoff, and Petramala picks it up for the Blue Jays and passes long back to Kesenick, his goaltender.
Part of their control game, and that's why Petramala's in on the faceoff. He'll control it, bring it back, and now they work into a controlled situation on offense.
You won't see Johns Hopkins be very frenetic with the ball, will you?
Well, you know, they can be, and that's the misnomer. They will not be frivolous with it on the defensive end of the field, but they can run with anybody on the offense. They'll take everything you give them.
This is Jeff Ime with it on the right wing. Being pressured outside, so he'll pass back to the middle to John Wilkins. Matt Palom banging his stick against the post. Rod Hextall in hockey, but in lacrosse, it's very, very common for the goaltenders to do that, to know where they're oriented at all times, to know where those posts are, those pipes.
Wilkins with the ball. He's a big gun out there in the midfield. A tremendous left-handed shot.
Being bothered there by Phil Schluter on defense.
Double team now, man open. It is Wilkins. If they move the ball, he'll be open. It's Kelly.
Brendan Kelly, the team captain, falls to the turf, no whistle. Johns Hopkins fans wanted it, but Syracuse comes up with a ground ball.
They could have gotten it too, but the referee didn't think so. Nice hustling play by Syracuse, and Hopkins would have moved the ball quicker. They would have had a good shot.
McCabe recovered it for Syracuse, and a dangerous play near the crease area, but Kesenick recovers the loose ball and gets quickly up to Kelly.
Again, they'll pattern that offense to a slow down, more of a controlled situation. And that can lull a team to sleep, because if they get the opportunity, they'll step up the tempo.
Well, the old strategy, as long as my team's got the ball, your team can't score. 19 seconds it took one of the Gate brothers to score. Paul Gate scoring to open it up, and it's 1-0 Syracuse.
This is Rob Persing behind 34 playing defense. He's a long sticks midi playing against the attack of Jeff Ime.
Ime tries to get around him, has the shot, and the save is made by Palin. A nice low shot by Ime, but Palin is ready for it.
Hopkins got the matchup they wanted. They are so good at exploring these matchups and pulling out what they need to get. They got Ime against the long sticks midi, inverted the midfielders with the attack, got the matchup, and a good shot. Palin came up big.
And you have a look at the Canadian connection, and boy, they put up some numbers this season, or what?
8 less than the entire Hopkins team. Hopkins not known to score a lot of goals. They need to keep it close to single digits today.
Behind the net it is now to number 42, Tom Marichek. Marichek, this is Zilberti, number 11 with it. Zilberti holding it in his right hand. And Zilberti loses control due to the checking of Billy Guan, but he gets it right back. In front, it goes with a shot that goes wide from number 14, Greg Burns. Out of bounds, it'll stay in the position of Syracuse.
Good break for Hopkins. That was a sensational rocket shot low. They just missed the 6x6. That's 36 square feet. He was a little bit to the right as we look at Zimmerman. Had that been on goal, I think that would have been goal number 2. They're moving the ball beautifully. And the second matchup we've got to watch is Billy Dwan of Hopkins against the great player Zilberti right there with the ball.
Marichek to Zilberti, back to number 22. That is Gary Gate.
And still Petromalo matched up on Gary.
And this is Paul Gate, number 19. He'll be matched up against Brian Volker.
That's the one they can exploit, I feel.
And Dumpson, Rodney Dumpson, the other member of that attack line, got off a quick shot, but Kesnick was equal to it.
Dumpson got off a good shot, but there you go. Your number 1 Division I All-America right there. Kesnick is sensational.
The Blue Jays, Billy Dwan at the center of the field. Careful not to go offside, gives to Resin Pollock. You must keep 3 men plus the goaltender back in your half of the field at all times.
Clearing in 89, you can see right here the Blue Jays clear the ball very efficiently. Clearing will not be a factor, I don't think, in this championship game. Hopkins will let them clear it if there's any sort of trouble of contesting it in the midfield. They'd rather play 6-on-6 defense.
Greg Kelly cuts toward the crease area, but he's cut off at the pass there by Rob Persing. Kelly still with it. Tries to use a pick from Adam Wright. Kelly comes in, and his shot is way high and long, and it will maintain possession to Johns Hopkins. 10:44 left first quarter, 1-0. Syracuse on top.
Of noise, both crowds are pretty even. Thought it'd be a Hopkins-dominated crowd, but it is not. Now there's a shot at goal. Panetta, as he beats goaltender Matt Palin to the near side, and we are tied at 1. And here comes those Hopkins fans coming to life. That shot really came out of nowhere. Panetta with the big active win against North Carolina in the national semifinal game. The 10-6 over the Tar Heels. He scored 3 goals in that contest. His first goal today. Tied the game at 1. In the pregame show, Steve Goldstein talked about Matt Panetta. And that time, Panetta rose to the occasion with a pretty shot, beating goaltender Matty Palin to the near side. We are even at 1 with 10:38 to go here in quarter number 1 as Pratt and Resin Pollock face off once again. And it is controlled by the Blue Jays, but then Resin Pollock loses control of it. But it is picked up by Pietro. Comes in with the left hand clear. That was a shot, but it's broken up nicely by Gary Gate. Great defensive play that time by the All-American. Matt Palin has it. He's being double teamed behind the net. There's an open net, but he dishes off nicely to Gary Gate, who looks behind to make sure Matt Palin is back in the net. Indeed he is. And Gary will bring it over midfield. Syracuse looking to reclaim the lead as we are tied at 1. Gate, there's a shot. It's broken up nicely by Pietro. Ball rolls to the far side. Hopkins tries to clear it. Dumpson is down there, along with Marichek. Finally, Gary Gate picks it up. He's got away from Ciccarone. Break here for the Orangemen. It's a pass in front to Paul Gate. Shot score! Great pass that time by Greg Burns. He found an open Paul Gate. And lightning strikes twice here in this Final Four as Paul Gate already has 2 goals. Just over 5 minutes of Burns looking for the early hat-trick. And it seems to be the weakness. Up high is the place to beat the goaltender Kesnick. It is 2-1 Syracuse, 9:51 left first quarter.
Terrific feed from Greg Burns, his 10th assist of the season to go along with 26 goals. To spot the open man Paul Gate. His second tally gives the Orangemen that 1 goal cushion.
A familiar sight, a face-off at midfield once again between Pratt and Resin Pollock. So far it's been pretty even between these two masters of this trade. Ball loose at midfield. Finally we get a whistle. And we will have a holding call against Syracuse. So Hopkins will take over with it, trying to knock this game up at 2 apiece.
So far this game, it looks pretty even between Syracuse and Johns Hopkins. Both goalies coming up with some nice saves between the pipes and some shots in front by the main scorers for each team. Being pretty much going as we expected.
John Hopkins has it on the far side as Hopkins looks to tie this game up at 2 apiece. Now Cat comes back out for Brian Lukatz. Syracuse sets up the man-to-man defense. Pass down low for Panetta. Back to Wilkins. Now Brendan Kelly has it. Trying to work one-on-one against Scaramuzino. Has an opening. Shot on net. Just goes wide, but there's a flag down as the ball goes out of bounds. We'll check the penalty call, most likely with the Blue Jay fans celebrating. It will go against Syracuse. It will be a holding call.
30-second violation called against Steve Scaramuzino for the defense against Brendan Kelly. He did manage to get 3 for his shot, but just misfired it clear to the near side, Palin's right side. But the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays were a 30-second man-up situation.
Kelly will trigger on the near side, even with the cage. As Hopkins tries to knock this game up at 2 apiece. Comes to Panetta on the near side. Feeds it back as they work the ball around in a counterclockwise fashion. There's a shot and a goal. That time Mike Morrissey from the far side with the rocket shot. Beats Matty Palin, and we are tied at 2 with 9:01 to go first quarter. So the first mental breakdown of the game for Syracuse. Scaramuzino with a penalty. It comes back to haunt them. We are not at 2 apiece.
Mike Morrissey with the tally for Johns Hopkins, just his 6th goal of the season. And the Blue Jays fans doing those 1-2, we want more chants. The game is tied at 2.
Face-off once again between Resin Pollock and Pratt. The ball placed between the sticks, and we have an illegal procedure call, and it will go against Syracuse. So Hopkins looking to take their first lead of the game. Orangeman broke down early 1-0, goal by Paul Gate, but back came Johns Hopkins on a goal by Panetta. Then Gate scored once again, and now Hopkins has converted the man up. We are even at 2. As Lukatz has it, trying to go one-on-one against Persing. With the left-hand cradle comes near side for Brendan Kelly. He's matched up against Scaramuzino, who just committed the penalty, and it came back to haunt the Orangeman. Pass in front, just missed as Arm tried to stuff it past the goaltender Palin, but the pass was just a little bit high. Ball comes out to midfield, but Hopkins picks it up again. Ciccarone has it. Feeds for Kelly. And now Hopkins will slow it down once again. This patient offense has been paying off so far for the Blue Jays. They've tried to slow it down. It's been quite effective. Trying to work one-on-one is Wilkins. He loses control of it. There's a scrum, and it is finally picked up by Mark Stouffer. Lobs it back for Palin, who does the same. Up to Phil Schluter at midfield. He'll come over. The midline strike with the left-hand cradle off to Greg Burns, who has an assist on the afternoon. But he fans on the pass. And finally will feed it off to Gary Gate. He's got to step on Pietromala. Trying to find Burns in front. Instead goes behind for Silberti. Paul Gate's in front, but he cannot hold the pass. Comes out to Greg Burns. He loses control of it. Now we have a whistle and a crease violation against Paul Gate, but nearly that time John Silberti had Paul Gate open. The pass just missed by a couple of inches.
With Dave Pietromala playing Gary Gate so close to him, nice job of stopping number 22 for the Orangemen. That allows Paul Gate to roam around with the slot area a little bit more and to get open. He's got Syracuse's first 2 goals of the game, and he has been open a couple times for passes, although sometimes he hasn't been found open for the shot.
Blue Jays go on the clear with 7:42 to go first quarter. Billy Dwan feeds it back for the goaltender Kesenich. Now comes out to Adam Wright. He passes to the midfield stripe as Hopkins is successful on this clear. Now it comes behind the net. Ein has it. Nice pick that time by Panetta. Ein comes out in front, passes for Wright. There's a shot, and it's deflected in front by Persian. seem to get a stick on it. Loose ball on the near side as it rolls out of bounds, but Phil Schluter keeps it in play. He'll bring it over midfield. A couple of nasty checks being applied on Phil Schluter, but he's got it as he comes into the attack zone with the left-handed Carroll. Nice poke check that time by 2 Blue Jays. Ball tries to roll out of bounds and finally does not. Jamie McNeely passes it back for Kesenich. Now it comes to Billy Dwan on the near side. Fans get into it as Hopkins successful on that clearing attempt. Now they bring it down on the near side. There's a shot on net. Just goes wide, and the goaltender Matt Payne as Greg Kelly wound up and about 20 yards away. But Hopkins will retain possession. Looks like the Blue Jays starting to get go on a bit of a run here, at least emotionally. They seem to have the juices flowing in 4th gear.
Johns Hopkins doing a nice job of passing in the area in front of the Syracuse net and also behind it. Doing a nice job with the offensive possession so far.
Panetta tries to bring it out in front. Shot score! Matt Panetta got a nice pick that time from his teammate Jeff Hine. And Hopkins gets their first lead of the game at 3-2. That's goal number 2 from Matt Panetta. But Fred, a nice pick that time by Hine as Mark Stoker was held up a bit. It's 3-2 Blue Jays.
We've been talking about it so far, but the Blue Jays are being very creative on offense, running their screens in front of goaltender Matt Payne. That time Panetta was the man to take the shot. His second goal of the day, coming off that big performance against North Carolina, where he scored 3 times. So far, he has been the man for Johns Hopkins in this NCAA tournament.
Face off again in midfield between Pratt and Rezin Pollock. So far, the Blue Jays face-off guys did a solid job against Pratt, who's considered probably the best face-off man in the country. McNeely has it as Hopkins does win that face-off. Comes behind the net for Kesenich. Lobs it ahead to McNeely. And he'll pass it up for Rezin Pollock. Loses control, but a nice job of checking that time by the Orangemen and Steve Scramuzino in particular. But Syracuse commits a miscue in the Hopkins defensive end, and the Blue Jays bring it over midfield. White will kick it back to Rezin Pollock. And he'll bark out of play as Hopkins looks to increase their lead to 2. They lead at 3-2. Dan Lannon into the game for Syracuse. He picks up Rezin Pollock. Passes to White, but nicely broken up by Dan Cahey. He'll bring it over midfield and set it up from there for the Orangemen. He's got Lannon open. Also a couple other teammates down low. Cahey keep it himself, though, being picked up by McNeely. Bonacci comes in along with Earl Hall. 30 yards in front of the cage for Bonacci. Close catch with Hall on the near side. Syracuse running some picks down low. Zoberti and Marichek doing those honors. Back for Bonacci. On the near side, tries to work one-on-one against Rezin Pollock. Passes in front for Burns. It's a sloppy one, but Earl Hall retains possession of the ball on the far side. For Zoberti, back to Hall on the far side of the field. Hall tries to work one-on-one. Got a hole, a shot. Saved by Kesenich. As Greg Burns was right on the doorstep, but could not scoop up the rebound, and back come the Blue Jays the other way. They bring it over midfield. As Billy Dwan has it. Now I'm on the far side. Being picked up by McCabe. I'm has beaten McCabe. He's got an opening pass in front. Shot score! John Dressel with the tally. There was a wide open net. A miscue that time by the defensive unit for the Orangemen. Patrick McCabe, who rarely gets beaten, does that time by Jeff Hine, who has played spectacular here in the first couple minutes. He doesn't have any goals, but he's dished out some nice assists and also some nice picks. Dressel, the recipient of a nice pass. Now it's a pretty easy shot. He had a wide open net. It was 4-2 Hopkins.
Good decision by Syracuse goaltender Matt Payne to venture out of the net. He was actually early in the first quarter and he came out a bit too far. That time he did have to pay the penalty. The Hopkins Blue Jays took a 2-goal lead. Warren Simmons Jr. will talk it over with his troops as we have our first timeout in this Division I championship game, so we'll take a break with 4:43 to go in this first quarter of play. It's Johns Hopkins 4, Syracuse 2. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good, John. You're right on top of that Dressel goal. see Palin, like 5 minutes into the game, when he came out too far, he got double teamed behind the net? I was going to mention that, I just didn't get a chance.
Yeah, go ahead. Do it. Yeah, well, Tom.
Okay. Yeah, because I wrote it down.
Yeah, what the fuck is with 7?
Yeah, John Sheehan, I heard it on the loudspeaker.
Thank God he didn't score.
Yeah, I thought he did at first.
Got it. I'm going to call him Miroslav the Chips.
Later, buddy. Thanks.
Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test.
1, 2, test, 1, 2, test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2, test, 1, 2.
Test. In the early going of this title game, some mental mistakes being committed by the Syracuse Orangemen, and Hopkins is indeed capitalizing on them. They lead it by a score of 4-2.
That's right, John. About 5 minutes into the game, we noticed that Matt Palin came way out of his net to scoop up a ground ball behind his own cage. He was quickly double-teamed by 2 of the Johns Hopkins attackmen. On that last goal by Dressel, he came out a bit too far. Johns Hopkins scored.
Face-off again between Rezenpark and Pratt. And it comes down to the Syracuse end. Still no one has control of it. Yet Tamalo's way downfield as he tries to scoop it ahead for Panetta. He loses control, but a nice check that time by Andrew Boland. And Panetta passes behind his back, but it's intercepted nicely by Gary Gate. He's got a break. Comes top of the box. Now there's a pass in front for Paul Gate. Shot goal. And Pratt, a nice assist to Greg Burns. That's his second pretty pass of the game. And the lead is trimmed to 1 at 4-3. Paul Gate with the early hat trick. That time a wide open shot. Really nothing Kesenich could do. And that time Paul Gate shot it a bit lower, about 3 feet lower than his previous 2 goals. Kesenich wasn't ready for it. It's 4-3.
Paul Gate with a perfect afternoon for the Orangemen. 3 goals on 3 shots. And as we talked about earlier with that quick 3 goals against Maryland, he's done the same today. And once again, great feed from Greg Burns.
Face-off between Pratt and Rezenpark. Once again, ball dribbles into the Syracuse end, but it's picked up by Paul Gate. So Pratt does his job right there. Rodney dumps him back in. Gate passes down low for Marichek. Cannot handle it, being checked nicely by McNeely. And Hopkins will take over. It's been an exciting first 11 minutes of play, just what we expected when number 1 and number 2 get together.
Supposed to be a meeting between the 2 best lacrosse teams in the country. And for the first 11 minutes of this game, that's exactly what it looks like.
Hopkins will go on the clear as Ciccarone has it on the far side. Now it comes to the goaltender, Quinn Kesenich, who has played pretty well so far for Hopkins. But on the long shots, he's been a bit weak, especially up high. As Dwan passes to Kesenich. Greg Burns applying some pressure. Syracuse being somewhat aggressive on this ride, but not too overly zealous.
We talked about the fine play of Hopkins defender Dave Pietramala. He's a big guy, 6'3", 190 pounds. But if he's playing Gary Gate, that leaves Paul Gate open a lot of the time. And checking the scoreboard, that's what you can see.
Trouble here for Hopkins, but it appears the goaltender Kesenich has averted it, and he'll bring it down by himself. Passes off nicely for Panetta. Works, shot just goes wide of goaltender Matt Palin. As John Dressel received a wicked check, but he appears to be all right. And now we'll have a flag down, but that time the goaltender Quinn Kesenich appeared to be in trouble in the Hopkins defensive end, but then got by Steve Scaramuzzino and a couple of other Orangemen and nearly pulled the Ron Hextall.
Kesenich displayed his athleticism on that play. 5 feet 8 inches tall, 165 pounds. He's a junior from Lynbrook, New York. And for him to venture all the way down the field away from his goal like that took a lot of guts. He was subjecting himself to some heavy checks in front of the net. He had a nice pass to Dressel, but the play was broken up.
Im has it behind the net as Panetta sets a pick for him. But Im loses control of it, but then regains it once again. Then a nice poke check by Scaramuzzino. Comes out top of the box for Kelly. There appeared to have been a flag thrown down, but there's no one in the box, so obviously the flag is discounted, so both teams are at even strength. Brendan Kelly goes far side for Wilkins. Wilkins plays catch with Im. And Lukács has it. Top of the box, trying to go one-on-one against Pershing. Nice spin move, loses control of it, however. Loose ball in front. And finally Patrick McKay picks it up on the far side. Nice shovel pass ahead for Steve Scaramuzzino. He beats two Hopkins defenders as a flag thrown down. Will go against Hopkins. Scared Mazzino brings it over midfield as he avoids Ein. Second line of minis are in for the Orangemen. Hall, Bonacci, and also Katie. Pass in front for Hall. Behind the back shot. He misfired on that one badly. And now the whistle is finally blown, but Earl Hall getting a little bit too fancy right there. There was nobody in front of him. I think Earl was surprised that there were no Blue Jay defenders as he had some wide open real estate.
Hall was open in front of the net, but he had gone a little bit too far away from the cage. He had to go behind his back to the shot and completely misfired.
So the penalty will go against, as we are checking the penalty will go against John Wilkins, that is, for Johns Hopkins. He'll sit out for 1 minute for a slash, so Syracuse will go on the man up. With 2:18 to go here in quarter number 1. Orangemen look to tie this game up at 4.
Big possession for the Orangemen with a man up for 60 seconds.
Gary Gate has it on the near side, passes for brother Paul, top of the box. Now for Rodney Dumpson, who scored a goal against Maryland. Behind the net for Zolberti, works out in front, shot, nice save by Kesinich. And we'll have a whistle, and it will go against Syracuse.
A police violation called against Zolberti. And usually you see John Zolberti behind the net. He looks to pass, but that time tried to surprise Quint Kesinich to get in front for the shot. And I think that was a pretty good move by Zolberti instead of passing it out to try and surprise Kesinich, but there was no way of him being successful doing that.
That's right, because most of these Blue Jay defenders think that John Zolberti is only known for his passing ability, but the Z-Man can indeed light the lamp on a number of occasions, as he has done so much throughout his brilliant career. Again, this is John Zolberti's last game as an Orangeman, and no doubt he will go down in Orangeman folklore. Hopkins will go on the clear as Pat Russell has it. He's being picked up by Phil Schluter. Kesinich is out of his net. He's being hounded by John Zolberti. A couple little guys trying to duke it out. Now there's a shot and goal by Zolberti. Phil Schluter intercepted the pass, and Quint Kesinich is one unhappy Blue Jay. He threw a stick down in disgust. He's complaining maybe about a crease violation, but give John Zolberti the goal, but really credit it to the long stick defender, Phil Schluter. Usually long stick defenders aren't known for their passing ability, but that time Phil, the graduate from Lawrenceville Academy, New Jersey, found John Zolberti wide open, and that's really got to break the heart of head coach Don Zimmerman for Johns Hopkins. Really their first big mental breakdown of the game.
And also, you don't figure that a long stick defensive midfielder is going to be that close to the net where he can make that kind of play. Schluter was there, and the game is tied.
Gate and Pietramala fight for the ball 20 yards in front of the Blue Jay cages. The Orangemen originally won the faceoff. Now Rezin Pollock has it with the left-hand cradle. He's got an opening. Feeds it down low for Ein. There's a shot and a nice save. Now it's trickled right off the goalpost as Joe Rezin Pollock nearly gave Hopkins their 5th goal of the game. A bad break that time for the Blue Jays, but the Orangemen will surely take it. They go on the clear, and they'll bring it over midfield. Paul Gate with it. We're down to 1:15 to go first quarter of play, and we are even at 4 apiece. Paul Gate works one-on-one against Pietramala. Tries a shot, now a spin move. Flip shot, nice save by Kesinich. Marichek tries to follow it up and is broken up nicely. Comes back to Kesinich, and Zolberti nearly intercepted that pass. Now comes up ahead to Billy Dwan. Receives a check to the head by Gary Gate. No whistle, however. And now the Blue Jays will try to set it up. Working one-on-one. John Ciccarone tried to move against Patrick McKay, but he's broken up nicely. Back comes Syracuse the other way. Rodney Dumpson with a head of steam gives off to Greg Burns, top of the box. Down to 30 seconds to go. Burns shot. Nice save, Kesinich. As it rolled behind the net, but Quint Kesinich is able to track it down. And they'll feed it off for Pietramala. Now for Ciccarone. Receives a bit of a slash from Marichek, but feeds it ahead and over midfield. Comes to his brother John Ciccarone. He's being checked nicely by McCabe as we're down to 9 seconds. And Syracuse, this will be their final chance of the first quarter. McCabe, right-hand cradle, shot. Nice save, Kesinich. Ball dribbles in front, behind the back, shot, score! Tom Marichek with 1 second to go in the first quarter. And Syracuse gets their first lead at 5-4, and again it was a defender setting up the play for Syracuse. On the previous goal, it was Phil Schluter Setting up Zoberti. This time credit to Patrick McCabe. He set up Tom Marichek. Earl Hall could not convert the behind-the-back shot. So leave it up to these British Columbia guys. They have mastered this art of fancy shots. And Marichek gets the goal. It's 5-4. Syracuse's 46th goal of the season.
Kesinich stoned McCabe. Ball came loose in front, and Marichek was there. He scooped it up, and with a behind-the-back shot, put it in the back of the net with 1 second left on the clock, and the Orangemen take the lead.
Face-off between Resin Pollock and Pratt Elementaries. There's only 1 second left on the clock, and time has expired here in the first 15 minutes of play in this Division I championship game. The Orangemen didn't play all that well, but the big goal from Tom Marichek gives them a 1-goal lead at 5-4. We'll have more on the Syracuse Lacrosse Radio Network right after this quick timeout. Again, the score is Syracuse 5 and the Blue Jays from Johns Hopkins 4.
Nice job.
Hey, thanks.
Good job, guys.
Thanks. What a goal.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I know, it was amazing.
Waiting on your third.
Do you want me to take the hit this year?
No, I'll catch you at the end.
Okay, Steve. Okay, yeah, have a blast.
Thanks, Steve.
I was going to say, big color job. Well done. Yeah. I heard the big color job. That was the best job of color I've ever heard. And it's a good time to come up with it, indeed.
15 minutes gone by, 45 left to play. The Syracuse Orangemen lead the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays 5-4. Surprisingly, 1 second to play in that first quarter. Scoops up the ground ball and Johns Hopkins puts it between the pipes and passes it over to the Orangemen takes the 5-4 lead. Paul Gate, the main offensive story for the Orangemen in the first quarter of play, with 3 quick goals in the first 11 and a half minutes of the quarter. And that is where we stand. Syracuse leads Johns Hopkins 5-4 as we're set to start the second quarter of play. This is Ted DeLuca along with John Thompson on a gorgeous day in College Park, Maryland. A couple of very thin, high clouds in the sky, the blue sky, and upwards of 20 to 25,000 fans in the stands here at College Park, Maryland. The face-off at midfield is won by Resin Pollock for Johns Hopkins, and he shoots it quickly back to his goaltender Kesinich, as the Blue Jays will start with the ball on their own end of the field. Kesinich gets it ahead to Steve Ciccarone. He drops it far side of the field for Dave Pietramala. Hopkins moves left to right in the second quarter of play, wearing the white uniforms trimmed in blue. The Syracuse Orangemen with the orange uniforms trimmed in white. Wilkins has it 25 yards away from the cage near side. Takes a return pass from Ime. Now back out high for Steve Ciccarone. Check that pellet. Spins away from the pressure. Drops it behind the net for Ime. Left-hand cradle for Jeff Ime. Working against McCabe. Centering pass. Misfired and scooped up by Phil Schroeder for the Orangemen. He's checked. He tries to get it ahead. And he does, far side of the field to Steve Scamaruzino, who takes it into the offensive end for the Orangemen. Drops it off Gary Gate, 15 yards away. Tries to shoot, ball is knocked away. Jamie McNeely tries to scoop it up for Johns Hopkins. He can't do it. Syracuse holds on to the ball as Paul Gate is the man to come up with it. Works his way inside the slot for the shot. Spins away from the pressure. Shoots. Kesinich makes the save. Ball loose in the crease, and Kim Kesinich covers it up. And the Blue Jays go on the clear. Zoberti applies a little pressure for the Orangemen. Kesinich gets it away to Billy Dwan. He misfires on his pass back to Kesinich. He does scoop it up, and he drops it off to McNeely. Now back to Kesinich as Johns Hopkins works the clear. Syracuse leads it 5-4 with 13 minutes and 19 seconds to play in the first half. Kesinich takes the ball in his long cross behind the Johns Hopkins net. The Blue Jays very deliberate in the clear as they switch up with the midfielders. Pat Russell into the game along with Brian Luca. Now the Orangemen apply a little pressure on the right as Narachek and Burns are ahead along the far opposing. The Blue Jays mishandle the pass far side of the field as Wilkins couldn't handle it. And he does get it away to Lukács on the far side of the field. He drops it off back out high for Wilkins. Now top of the box for Ine. Centering pass shot right of the net. Ground ball is taken by Patrick McCabe as Panetta fed Ine for the shot. He misfired, and the Orangemen will work the clear. Syracuse leads it 5-4. Neither team has scored in the third quarter. Second quarter, made that, as we are 12 minutes and 14 seconds away from halftime. Syracuse moving right to left in the second quarter of play. McCabe drops it far side of the field for one of the Syracuse defenders. The Orangemen very deliberate as Palin has the ball in his crotch. A little bit of pressure applied by John Dressel of the Blue Jays, and now Palin takes it ahead toward midfield. We have a whistle, and offsides will be the call against the Syracuse Orangemen as Matt Palin stepped over the line when he shouldn't have, and the Hopkins Blue Jays have the ball.
A little bit of a break in the intense scoring action that we saw in the first quarter of play as 9 goals were tallied in those first 15 minutes of play. Interesting to see on one of the other matchups we talked about, Mark Stouffer against Mark Panetta. And so far, Stouffer has held his own nicely in the last couple of minutes. Panetta got some quick early goals, but since then, Stouffer has played very well on the defensive line for Syracuse.
Hopkins moving left to right as Rezin Pollock has it. He works inside for the shot. Save Palin, ball loose right in front of the goaltender. Rob Pershing had his stick on it, but Palin came up with it. Long outlet pass to Schluter, who takes it ahead of the field into the restraining area. He drops it off far side for Greg Burns, as Syracuse will work the ball around the Hopkins cage. Burns takes a return pass from Zilberti, and he moves 25 yards away from the net straight away. Drops it off for Paulgate. Works his way into the restraining area, tries to work around a pick from Burns. He does. Shoot, save, Kessenich! Luke Kessenich comes up with the save on Paulgate. Johns Hopkins will work the clear. Pietramala has it near side of the field. Hopkins moving left to right. Ball comes to Rezin Pollock as the Blue Jays switch up at midfield. Back into the game, Adam Wright. Rezin Pollock controls 30 yards away. Now works his way toward the box against Gary Gate. Works his way behind the net now. Drops it off for Ine. Centering pass, shot, save, Palin. Palin makes the save on Jay Clark. Syracuse quickly working the clear. Taking it down the far side of the field for the Orangemen. Dennis Simmons into the ball game. He tries to feed Gary Gate ahead, but he can't do it. Ball comes to the goaltender, Kessenich. Johns Hopkins will try to clear. Kessenich with a long pass ahead to Ine. Takes it into the restraining area. Fakes the pass. Moves even with the pipes near side of the field. Switches his cradle as he works back toward the top of the box. He passes back out high for Brendan Kelly. Right-hand cradle for Kelly. Now passes it off to his brother Greg. They play catch on the far side of the field. Greg has it now, checked by Gary Gate. Tries to work his way in front for the shot. Ball comes loose. Gary Gate scoops it up. 9:45 to play in the second quarter. Syracuse up 5-4. Gate takes it down the far side of the field. Syracuse moves right to left. He's checked from behind by Greg Kelly. Ball comes loose, and Kelly scoops up the ground ball. Passes out to his brother Brendan, moving left to right, takes it into the restraining area. Now he stops top of the box. Rodney Dempsey comes out to play a little defense on him. He gets it back to Wilkins, 30 yards away from the net, straight away from Palin. Near side of the field, Greg Kelly, right-hand cradle. Quickly, double team, spins away from the pressure, gets it back out high for Wilkins. Winds up, bounce shot, near side of the field. They make that more of a pass. Quick pass in front, cannot be handled by Clark. Ball loose and taken by the Orangemen. Ine scoops up the ground ball as Syracuse failed to execute the clear. And Johns Hopkins will reset the offense. Wilkins has it 25 yards away from the net, gets it back out high for Brendan Kelly. He calls the offense. He's checked by Rodney Dumpson of Syracuse. 8:42 to play. Neither team has scored in the second quarter. Out high, Lukács, 15 yards away from the net. Far side of the field, tries to feed Brendan Kelly. He can't handle the pass. Loose on the turf, taken by Dumpson for Syracuse. Rodney Dumpson speeding down the far side of the field. Syracuse moves left to right. Right-hand cradle for Rodney Dumpson. Now he's 10 yards away. Switches cradle. Shot. Save. Kessenich. Ball loose in front. Red Burns had a stick on it. Couldn't come up with it. Ball is still loose. And now some pushing and shoving going on between Gary Gate of the Orangemen and make that Tom Narachek. Couldn't quite see the Frenchman's number. And he was getting it on with one of the Johns Hopkins defenders. Ryan Lucas, the midfielder, and Tom Narachek with a little extracurricular fisticuffs in front of the Johns Hopkins goal.
Just a couple of minutes ago, Ted, an interesting development taking place. Gary Gate brought the ball down to the Hopkins defensive end, then he was checked nicely by Greg Kelly. Gary took about 30 seconds to come off the field, looked as if he may have been limping, then he came down to the bench, sat down, and he hasn't played in the last couple of shifts, maybe a case of dehydration. Now he's standing next to his brother Paul Gate, but a bit of a worrisome moment for Syracuse fans and the coaching staff. He was attended to by a couple of trainers, but right now Gary has his helmet on, he's standing up, and appears to be ready to head back for more action here in the second quarter of play.
This is Ted DeLuca along with John Thompson. We have seen a defensive struggle so far in the second quarter of play.
And that's just what head coach Don Zimmerman wants from his troops to really tighten up defensively. They're a little bit loose in that first quarter of play, and it's key to note that Gary Gate is back into the game for the Orangemen, so he appears ready for more action here in this championship game.
Johns Hopkins controls, moving left to right. Wilkins has it, top of the box. He feeds Sheehan far side of the field. Near side Morrissey has it, now back to Sheehan. Johns Hopkins with the quick passes in front of the Syracuse cage. Wilkins completely misfired on that pass, or they're going to call it a shot, actually, as backing up the play is Matt Panetta. So the Blue Jays retain possession. Panetta will trigger.
In the NFL, that would have been good for 3 points that time. That shot missed by about 40 yards up high.
Panetta triggers as the Blue Jays work the ball around the Syracuse cage, applying some close pressure. Sheehan takes it far side, Wilkins. Score! We're tied at 5. John Wilkins with his first goal on the day for Johns Hopkins. Ties it at 5. And as we were talking about the defensive struggle, Johns Hopkins tied the game.
That time Wilkins just got enough room that time, and as Mark Stoker was a little bit late coming out trying to cover him, and Wilkins, who's known for the rocket shot, went low that time. And we are even at 5 apiece.
For Wilkins, that's his 19th goal of the season. Matt Panetta is the main goal scorer for Johns Hopkins with 23 coming into today's game. He scored 2 on the day to give him 25, and we are tied at 5 with 7:40 to play in the first half. A scramble off the face-off at midfield between Les and Pollock and Pratt. And Johns Hopkins comes away the victor. Kessenich is behind his own cage, has the ball in his long cross, as the Blue Jays will work to clear. 7:20 to play in the first half. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins tied at 5 in the 1989 National Championship game, NCAA Division I Men's Lacrosse. Syracuse winning the game last year over Cornell, the Orangemen trying to repeat as national champions. The Blue Jays very deliberate on the clear as Hopkins works left to right. Now Kessenich sees an opening and will take it toward midfield. Now he crosses the line, going to drop it back far side of the field for Lucas. And the Blue Jays mess up the pass far side of the field. Lucas tried to get it to Wilkins, couldn't handle it, and Syracuse has the ball.
And just as a reminder, you're listening to this game on the Syracuse Lacrosse Radio Network, WAR FM 88 in Syracuse, New York, and WNYE 91.5 in New York City.
The Orangemen start out with the ball on the far side of the field. Gary Gate will trigger for Syracuse. Gets it back for goaltender Matt Phelan. 6:41 to play in the first half. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins tied at 5. Phelan takes a return pass from Stoker. And some pressure applied from Dressel on the ride. Phelan gets it away to Stoker near side, but he has to come back and drop it off for the freshman Patrick McCabe. The sophomore Patrick McCabe, I should say. McCabe and the goaltender Phelan play catch in front of the Syracuse cage. Dressel back to apply some pressure. McCabe with a long pass ahead of the field down the far side of the turf. And the Orangemen have the ball in the Johns Hopkins area of the field. Gary Gate takes it behind the net. Left-hand play up for Gary. He has yet to score today. He's checked in front. Pass goes right. Ball is broken up by the goaltender, Kessenich. He has the ball in his long cross, and the Blue Jays will try to clear. The team switch up at midfield. Defensive middies back on for the Orange men. As once again, Hopkins tries to clear the ball out of their own end. We've seen a lot of that second quarter. Johns Hopkins has held onto the ball, both offensively and defensively. Spending a lot of time keeping the ball away from the Syracuse Orange men and the offensive firepower that Syracuse has. Reggie Pollock lost it toward midfield. Kenny Schroeder tried to scoop it up for the Orange men. Now he does. But he is knocked to the turf. Ball went out of bounds. It's weird that Schroeder was not to touch it. It's Johns Hopkins' ball.
In the last defensive series, when Gary Gate tried to pass in front for his brother Paul, it was Pat Russell and not Dave Pietramala picking up Gary Gate. So a bit of a switch that time for head coach Don Zimmerman in terms of who will cover Gary Gate. Probably giving his big defender a little bit of a rest, as it's tough to cover Gary Gate for an entire 4 quarters.
And Pietramala takes it ahead of the field. He's going to wind up and shoot high over the net. Ball rolls out of bounds, and Johns Hopkins retains possession as Panetta was there to back it up. 5 minutes and 2 seconds left to play into the second quarter. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins tied at 5.
Not the best selection that time in terms of what to do by Pietramala. He should have really passed it up to Dressel in front. Panetta gets over in front for the goal.
Matt Panetta took it all by himself after triggering the play from behind the Syracuse net. And he scores to give Johns Hopkins a 6-5 lead, his 3rd goal of the game.
Again, another defensive breakdown, that time by the Orangemen. Panetta got by Mark Stoker, and Matt Palem, something he's been doing really not very wisely. He's been coming out way too far out of his own net, and he kind of slipped a bit, and Panetta puts it by him, and Hopkins has the lead once again at 6-5.
So Panetta has 3 goals for Johns Hopkins, and Paul Gate has 3 goals for the Orange men. 4 minutes and 58 seconds left to go in the first half. Johns Hopkins leads it 6-5. The face-off at midfield between Resin Pollock and Pratt. Ball is still loose, and Kirk Pratt scoops it up. He takes it far side of the field. He's hacked by Resin Pollock, but gets away and moves toward the center of the field before getting it to Steve Scalmazzino. Scalmazzino drops it off near side for Tom Maricek. Behind the net for Greg Burns. Syracuse moving right to left in the second quarter. Burns has it from his cross, takes it far side of the field, even with the crew. Spins away from the defender, Steve Ciccarone, and drops it off behind the net for Maricek. He's watched by Billy Dwan and gets it away for Earl Hall. Hall moves top of the box, left to right along the stripe. Right-hand cradle. Drops it off out high. John Zilberni, 30 yards away from the net. The Z-man not accustomed to playing way out there. He's checked by Pietramala. The Z-man will move behind the Syracuse stage. He's trying to. Pietramala with first defense. Hacks him once, hacks him twice. All complete. Pietramala has it. The Hopkins crowd approves of that play. Pietramala gets it away to Resin Pollock on the far side. Really goes out of bounds. Pass over his shoulder. Comes to Pietramala at midfield. He gets it away near side for the field. Lines up. Shot. Knocked away by Palin. Scoops up a loose ball, and Syracuse will look to clear. 3:32 to play first half. Hopkins up 6-5. Katie, quick shot, save Kessenich. Dan Katie took it all by himself into the restraining area and tried to put it past Kessenich. He scored 2 goals against Maryland, but couldn't beat Kessenich that time. Dwan takes it ahead of the field, lines up, drops it off for Dressel. Someone pass, shot, score! Mike Morrissey with his second goal of the game. Make that Matt Panetta. And Hopkins takes a 7-5 lead.
Another breakdown that time by Syracuse. And a great effort by Panetta. His 4th goal of the game, 27 tallies on the season. Syracuse seems to be a bit shaken up mentally in their own defensive end and even on the offensive side of things. A little bit of frustration set in. Zilberni really couldn't beat Pietramala. His speed was matched nicely by the big defender. Things clicking at both ends of the field for the Blue Jays.
3 minutes and 7 seconds to play in the first half. Johns Hopkins leading Syracuse by a 2-goal margin. It's 7-5. Between Greg Kelly and the Blue Jays move. Kelly comes away with the ball, takes it into the box, lines up, shot and score! Greg Kelly makes it 8-5 in favor of the Blue Jays. And with under 3 minutes to play in the first half, Johns Hopkins is on a roll. Surprised that the Orangemen have not taken a timeout, as Johns Hopkins has ran off 4 straight goals in a row. Roy Simmons Jr., however, is not signaling for a timeout as the Hopkins team is telling the crowd to quiet down a bit as they're trying to concentrate. Not sure why they'd want that to happen. But the Blue Jays are indeed on a roll as this first half begins to come to a close. Important face-off for Kirk Pratt and Joe Pollock. The Orangemen need to win the draw. And Syracuse head coach Roy Simmons Jr. elects to take a timeout and talk it over with the Orangemen. So with 2 minutes and 58 seconds to play in the first half, we have a break in action on the field. We'll break away as well. The score from College Park, Maryland in the NCAA Division I National Championship. Johns Hopkins 8, Syracuse 5. Sorry, I was pointing at Padetta. I'm just going to start circling numbers. What's up? Okay. We look really screwed up right now. Got it. Thanks, Doc. I'll just start circling numbers now. Okay. Wait, get it out now. Don't worry about it. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. So, I mean, you're right on top of the goals.
Well, Jamie Brazula, please report to the rear of the press box. Jamie Brazula,
Syracuse head coach Roy Simmons Jr. huddling with his Orangemen toward midfield as Syracuse has been shell-shocked the past couple of minutes. The first 7 or 8 minutes of the second quarter, neither team scored, but Johns Hopkins has gone on a 4-0 run to take an 8-5 lead over the Orangemen with 2:58 to play in the first half. This is Kevin Luca along with John Thompson. And Syracuse looks very disorganized offensively and defensively.
Seems as if Syracuse is trying to win this game with one-on-one moves, so Birdie tried to do it against Pietramala. Gary Gate has tried it. They really got to get back to the team concept. That's what's gotten them here. Of course, you have great individual players, but you win together as a team. Right now, Syracuse is losing as individuals, not as a team.
Mike McGee and Charles Pollock on the face-off, and McGee nearly won it for the Orangemen. Ball is still loose. He tries to track it down, but falls to the trip, and Pollock comes away with the ball. He's hacked from behind by McGee, but does manage to scoop it up and drops it off to his goaltender, Dick Kessin. The Blue Jays will work the field with 2:39 to play in the first half. Ball comes across the midfield line for Brendan Kelly. He will stop things far side of the field as Johns Hopkins switches up the middies. Wilkins has it now, 30 yards away from the net. Gets it back for Brendan Kelly. Drops it off far side of the field for Panetta. Works his way in front for the shot. Now sees Brendan Kelly. Knocked away by Phil Schuler. He knocks Kelly to the turf. Ball is still loose, far side of the field. Dressing really came up with it to John Hopkins. 5. Heim circles behind the Syracuse cage with a right-hand throw. Tries to work his way in front for a pass or a shot. Spins away. Ball is knocked loose by Scaramuzzino for the Orangemen. Syracuse trying to clear a very aggressive ride employed by Johns Hopkins. Scaramuzzino gets it away near side for Persing. Rob Persing takes it over the midfield line. He's met by Pietramala. Tries to slow things down. Pietramala dogging him toward midfield. He works back across the line and takes it ahead once more. Persing still hacked again. Pat Russell that time with the stick on him. But Persing does get it away. Syracuse trails Johns Hopkins 8-5. As Paul Gate has it, far side of the field, tries to spin away from the pressure and gets it out high to his brother Gary. He drops it off for Rodney Dumpson. We're under a minute to go. Dumpson takes it into the box. Right-hand cradle for Rodney. Spins away from Russell. Near side of the field for the freshman Tom Marachek. Behind the net, Zilberti. Checked again. The Z-man with a behind-the-back pass is knocked away, and Kesenich trying to scoop it up in front of the goal. He nearly did. It came loose. Gary Gate fighting for the ball with a couple of Blue Jays. Tom Marachek is on the scene now. Ball is still loose on the turf. Paul Gate picks it up. 29 seconds to go. Paul Gate works into the restraining area. Winds up. Shoots. Score! With 24 seconds to play in the half, Gary Gate makes it 8-6 with his 4th goal of the day. Make that Paul Gate with his 4th goal of the day.
That time Paul Gate got by the long stick defender Volker, wound up. There's a bit of an ooh in the crowd just a split second before he shot it. Everyone knew it was going to be a bullet. Indeed it was. And that's the type of goal that could be a big momentum lifter as we head into the second half of play. Of course, Syracuse probably will not tie this game up before intermission, but maybe the emotional swing is starting to, emotional balance is starting to swing in favor of Syracuse.
Paul Gate continues to have an outstanding weekend here in College Park. His 4th goal of the game pulls Syracuse within 2. Face-off at midfield between McGee and Resin Pollock. Ball is loose. Resin Pollock wins the draw, but we have a whistle. And a timeout is taken by Johns Hopkins head coach Don Zimmerman. So Zimmerman will talk it over with the Blue Jays, and with 16 seconds to play in the first half, we'll take a timeout as well. The score from College Park, Maryland, Johns Hopkins 8, Syracuse 6.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is your sports trivia question for the day. Only 3 Division 1A schools have nicknames that are not an animal, do not contain a color,
Okay,
and do not answer death.
I blew that call. Why'd you blow it? Because I said Gary Gate afterwards. What the fuck am I thinking? Jesus Christ.
Do not contain a color, and do not answer death.
I feel like such a student. Thanks.
Just have fun with it.
Yeah, so far it's not that bad so far.
Just, we're both perfectionists.
All right.
Test. 1.
Okay.
Maybe get Jake for halftime?
Just 16 seconds remain in the first half of the 1989 National Championship, Syracuse and Johns Hopkins. And as we head toward halftime, the Blue Jays have an 8-6 lead. But Paul Gate has had quite a day for the Orange men so far.
Indeed he has. 4 goals on the afternoon for Paul Gate, but Johns Hopkins has to be happy with the second quarter of play. They have let in only 1 Syracuse tally in just about 14 plus minutes of play. And don't forget, at halftime, Mike Dardis will catch you up to date with all that's going on in the sporting news inside the Lacrosse Network studios.
13 seconds to play. Panetta takes it behind the Syracuse cage, right-hand cradle, working on Patrick McCabe. Spins away from Patrick, but loses the ball in front, and Schluter scoops it up for Syracuse. Long outlet pass ahead of the field, and we have a whistle, as that is the end of the first half of play. So the Syracuse Orange men nearly shut out in the second quarter. Paul Gate scores late in the second quarter for Syracuse to pull the Orange men within 2. The first half of the 1989 National Championship is in the books. The score from College Park, Maryland, Johns Hopkins 8, Syracuse 6.
Once again, check the message board on the scoreboard. Your sports trivia question for the day. Only 3 Division 1A schools have nicknames that are not an animal,
Yeah.
do not contain a color, and do not answer
Okay.
death.
We might have...
From Bird Stadium on the campus of the University of Maryland at College Park, it's the men's Division I Lacrosse Championships with Johns Hopkins leading Syracuse 8-6 at halftime. I'm Tom Mees with Steve Helsbaugh. And Lee, let's take a look at the stats from the first half of play. And you'll see that Johns Hopkins is doing a very good job, especially in the area of face-offs, and that leads to ball control.
Quite a shocker. Ground ball, as you can see, is dead even. That controls the tempo of the transition game. Face-offs dominated by Hopkins. Shots a little bit on the Hopkins edge. And, of course, saves. Kesnick coming up big time. Extra man. Both teams real effective. Nobody's missed yet.
Now, the nation's #1 lacrosse fan is in attendance here today at Bird Stadium. Vice President of the United States, Dan Quayle, whose son Tucker, we understand, is a high school lacrosse player in the state of Virginia. He's here taking in the action today.
Just saw Dickie Dell, the coach of Maryland, and he's looking at his son as a pretty good prospect.
All right, we hope the Vice President enjoys what he sees today as we look at the Syracuse bench. A new feeling for them. First time they've ever trailed entering the third quarter of the season. On the other hand, Johns Hopkins, in the meeting of these two teams back on March 4th, held Syracuse scoreless in the third period.
It was 3-0 in the third period of that first matchup. I would definitely say this third quarter will tell us a lot about the mental attitude of the Syracuse team. We talked before, Tom, about how will this team react if they're behind. We don't know, but we'll find out.
Brad and Resin Pollock fight for the face-off to start the second half.
The stands are nearly completely filled all the way around the field. Upwards of 20 to 22 or 3,000 fans in the stands under the sunny skies and temperatures in the mid-70s on Memorial Day here in College Park, Maryland. A beautiful afternoon for lacrosse, or actually any sport held outdoors. Just a gorgeous day for any kind of sporting event on Memorial Day here in College Park. The Orangemen will move left to right in the third quarter of play. Johns Hopkins the opposite direction from right to left. Kirk Pratt and Joe Resin-Pollock punch over the ball at midfield as we are set to resume play in the second half. The Blue Jays lead it 8-6, and there's the whistle. Ball between the crosses and loose on the turf. The wingmen come in to fight for the ball. Scoots away toward the near sideline. Gary Gate tracks it down for the Orangemen. Ball is still loose, but Gate knocks it away. And the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays start out the second half with offensive possession.
Nice play that time by Dave Pietromalo to break up Gary Gate. And so far, Gary Gate has been held pretty much in check. He has 0 goals, counted 0. Pietromalo, great job by him of covering the All-American from British Columbia.
We talked about that matchup in the pregame, saying that was going to be the story of the game. I guess you really can't call it the story of the game, but a key factor. And Johns Hopkins ahead in that category. Heim has the ball, now gets it out high to Wilkins. Quick shot by Brendan Kelly, scoots off the turf, save Matt Palin. He drops it off behind the cage for Patrick McCabe. Back there to work the clear with Palin, and Stouffer is on the near side of the field. The teams switch up at midfield as the first team middies for Syracuse are into the game. The Gate brothers along with Rodney Dumpson as the Orangemen slowly walk the ball away from their own goal. Just underway in the second half. More than 14 minutes to play. Syracuse trailing 8-6. Zilberti controls behind the Syracuse cage. Gets it far side of the field for Maricek. Centering pass intended for Paul Gate, knocked away. Ball loose on the turf and scooped up by Pietromalo. He gets it ahead for John Dressel. Starts the rush for Hopkins. Winds up. Shot. Bounce shot. Save Palin. Patrick McCabe takes the ground ball and gets it back to Syracuse's goalie. And Palin gets it ahead down the far side of the field to Tom Maricek. Quick pass behind the back. Shot and a score! Paul Gate finds Greg Burns, and Syracuse pulls within 1. 8-7.
Nice shot that time by Greg Burns. He has 3 assists in the first half of play. Now Greg's saying to himself, well, I can do it on the assist. The assist department. Now let's do it in terms of goals. And that time he fired the high shot past the goaltender. It is now a 1-goal game at 8-7 for Johns Hopkins. 13:30 to go here in the third quarter.
Splendid behind the back pass from Paul Gate to a streaking Greg Burns. And the Orangemen are back in it. It's 8-7 with 13:30 to play in the third quarter. Face off at midfield between Pratt of Syracuse and Resin-Pollock. Ball is still loose off the draw. Pratt couldn't come up with it. Jamie McNeely nearly had it for Johns Hopkins, but he was knocked away. Ball is still loose, and Cahey scoops it up, quickly double-teamed and checked. Ball comes loose again. McNeely knocks it into the offensive end for Johns Hopkins, but Steve Scaramuzzino comes away with it for Syracuse. Drops it off for Smith, who gets it into the cross of Palem, as the Orange men will work the clear. Second team midfielders into the game for Syracuse: Cahey, Bonacci, and Hall. The Orange men down by 1, 8-7, with 12:47 to play in the third quarter. Now Boland into the game, takes it into the restraining area. Drops it off behind the net for Zilberti. Feeds Maricek, far side of the field. Back out high for Cahey. Right-hand cradle for Dan Cahey. Scored a couple of goals against Maryland. He will slow things down on offense. Takes it 25 yards away from the net straight away. Cahey now circles near the cage and drops it off behind the net for Greg Burns. He's watched by Steve Ciccarone of Johns Hopkins. Gets it back out high for Hall. Feeds Bonacci. Now goes far side of the field for Gary Gates. Back for Hall, out high. Now to Greg Burns, even with the net. Syracuse very deliberate on offense. Burns tries to work his way in front. He's hacked by a defender, trying to spin away from the pressure. Can't get by Steve Ciccarone. Feeds Zilberti, even with the pipes. He's watched by Billy Dwan. He goes far side of the field for Maricek. Right-hand cradle for the freshman. He's watched by Pietro Mala now. He gets it back out high for Cahey. Hall now with the ball, 15 yards away from the net. Tries to get away from a defender. He drops it off for Cahey. Syracuse very deliberate with the ball in the offensive possession. Cahey puts a couple of moves on. Loses the ball momentarily, but does manage to scoop it back up. 11:18 to play. Hopkins up 8-7. Greg Burns has it now. Behind the Johns Hopkins net. Tries to work on Steve Ciccarone. Tries to make his way in front. Can't quite do it. Looking for the pass. Now he's looking for the shot. Gets it back for Zilberti. Quick shot. Score! Syracuse! Joe Bonacci with the score. Off the pass from John Zilberti, and we're tied at 8.
Joe Bonacci, that is, has a knack for scoring big goals. He got the big one against Towson State to pull that game out on Manhasset Long Island a couple of months ago. But no doubt this has to be the biggest goal of his career. The transfer from the Naval Academy has knotted this game up in 8 apiece. Don Zimmerman, no doubt a very nervous head coach right now for the Blue Jays, as the momentum has definitely swung in favor of Syracuse.
11 minutes and 1 second to play in the third quarter. The game is tied at 8. Joe Bonacci's 7th goal of the season. And we have a brand new ball game. A scuffle off the faceoff at midfield. Ball rolls out of bounds, but possession is ruled in favor of the Orangemen. The Johns Hopkins coaches were saying that the Blue Jays should stay away from the ball as it rolled out of bounds. So they did, but the Orangemen were the ones to come away with offensive possession, as the Blue Jays were the last to touch it. So Syracuse controls in the offensive portion of the field. 10:54 showing on the third quarter clock here from Byrd Stadium. The game is tied at 8. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins for the 1989 National Championship. Paul Gates spins away from the pressure, shoots wide of the net to the near side. Ball rolls out of bounds, and John Zilberti wins the foot race. So Syracuse maintains possession.
Great move that time by Paul Gate, who has 4 goals on this afternoon. He just missed that one by inches and then threw his hands up in disgust after he missed the shot. But no doubt Syracuse becoming much, much more aggressive in the offensive zone.
A bad pass from behind the Johns Hopkins net. John Zilberti tried to get it to Tom Maricek. He couldn't handle the pass. Perhaps the sun was in his eyes, just didn't see it or something. Ball rolled out of bounds. So Johns Hopkins tries to work the clear. 10:35 to play in the third quarter. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins knotted at 8. Dwan has it in his long cross, drops it back for the goaltender Kesenich. The Blue Jays trying to work the clear, as Panetta has it at midfield. Winds up, shot, save Palem. We have a flag thrown down on the field, and offsides is the call.
Here's the call will go against Johns Hopkins, and so it'll be a technical call, but now with the way the officials are pointing, We'll go against Syracuse. Strange to see an offsides call deep down in the defensive zone for Syracuse. Usually when the flag is thrown, it goes against the offensive team, being a little bit too over-anxious coming across midfield, but it goes against Syracuse.
A 30-second technical violation called against Johns Gilberti. So Johns Hopkins with a man-up situation for the next 30 seconds. The Blue Jays work the ball out in front of the Syracuse net. Quick pass for Panetta, centering pass, shot, score! Jay Clark takes the pass from Panetta, and the Blue Jays are back on top. It's 9-8.
Again, the mental mistakes, the breakdowns hurting Syracuse. So Bernie goes out for the penalty, and Hopkins cashes into the man-up situation. That happened earlier in the first quarter of play when Steve Scaramuzino was whistling for a misdemeanor. And Hopkins has the lead at 9-8, and a great pass by Panetta to Jay Clark. Panetta showing that he can also dish it out as well as drill it home.
Back and forth, lip and tuck. 10:04 to play, third quarter. Johns Hopkins retakes the one-goal lead, 9-8. McGee and Resin Pollock fight for the faceoff at midfield. McGee wins the draw. Comes away with the ball on the far side of the field. Gets it away for Gary Gate, 30 yards away from the cage on the near side. He moves into the box. He's checked by Pietramala. Tries to get free. Works his way in front. Shot hit the post, it appeared. Ball came loose, but we have a whistle. We'll wait for the official call. A crease violation is the call against the Orangemen. And Syracuse loses the ball. Once again, the Orangemen have to play some D.
Great play again by Pietramala, the All-American, matching up nicely against Gary Gate. Gary's got to be feeling a little bit frustrated at this time of the game. No goals on the afternoon. He's got a couple of assists, but it's been a long afternoon for Gary Gate. Of course, he'll take it if Syracuse can pull out the victory anyways, but it's got to be a frustrating afternoon for the junior.
Pietramala, a 6'3", 190-pound senior defenseman, has done the job to shut down Gary Gate this afternoon. Johns Hopkins tries to work the clear from its own end. 9:22 to go, third quarter. The Blue Jays up 9-8. Dwan gets it back into the cross of goaltender Kesenich. Pass comes loose at the far side of the field. Syracuse regains control. Burns, centering pass, Scaramuzino. We have a flag on the play. Ball comes loose, but no matter. We have a flag thrown and a penalty coming up. Pass was mishandled far side of the field by Adam Wright. A slash is the call against Johns Hopkins, it appears.
And that time, Tom Marichek broke up the pass on the far side of the field. He did a great job of hounding the defensive men for Johns Hopkins. He brought it in. Syracuse nearly tied this game up, and now we have a 1-minute technical call against Johns Hopkins for the slashing call. We'll go against number 14, that's Joe Resin Pollock for Johns Hopkins. So Syracuse looking to tie the game up.
Syracuse trying to get that tie with a 60-second man-up advantage. Paulgate controls top of the box as Syracuse patiently works the ball around the cage. Gilberti takes the pass, centering pass, Gary Gate, shot, score! Gary Gate and John Gilberti shake hands about 8 yards away from the goal. The Orangemen have tied it up once again, 9-9. Gary Gate's first goal of the day.
It took nearly 36 minutes for Gary Gate to finally get on the scoreboard, and he does in dramatic fashion, scoring with a man-up situation, blasting the shot past the goaltender Kesenich, and we are even again at 9 apiece. This game indeed, Ted, living up to its billing, 1-2, can't get any more closer than we are right at this stage.
And that goal, somewhat of a milestone for Gary Gate, his 50th goal of the season. He scored 70 last year. That goal, his 50th. Quickly off the faceoff, Johns Hopkins into the attacking end. Ball comes loose as Dressel couldn't handle the pass from Resin Pollock, and the Orangemen try to clear. Halen with a long outlet pass down the far side of the field to Paul Gate, who takes it. He works his way into the restraining area, tries to get free from a couple defenders, winds up on the ground. He is knocked to the turf. A flag is thrown. He did manage to get the ball away for a shot. It rolled wide of the net. But we have a flag down on the play.
Holding call against Johns Hopkins, a 30-second technical. So the mistakes and the penalties, the game's starting to get a bit more sloppy here. That first half of play, we had very little violations against either team now. the game is starting to be called quite closer by the officials, and little things which were avoided or ignored in the first half of play are being called, and players are being sent off here in this third quarter of action.
Sophomore defender Brian Volker is the one called for the violation, so Syracuse has a 30-second man-up situation. The Orangemen made the most of their last man-up. Gary Gates scored his first goal of the game to tie the ball game at 9. 8:21 to play in the third quarter. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins tied at 9. Paul Gate controls. Takes a return pass from Dumpson. Now Rodney has it back. Syracuse works the ball around the net. Zilberti tries to find a cutter. Can't do it. Passes it back outside Maricek. Paul Gate behind the back. Gary, shot! Save Kesenich! Great play by Quint Kesenich, and he is chased around and around his crease by John Zilberti, who hacks at him. But they will call the crease violation against Zilberti, as he did get a little too close to Kesenich, trying to get him to cough the ball up on the ride.
Zilberti and Burns both quite angry at the official who signaled down that crease violation, but the call will stand. And it looks like Hopkins has averted this man-up situation. So we are tied at 9, just under 8 minutes to go here in quarter number 3.
Zilberti did stray into the crease. So Johns Hopkins has the ball. Wilkins has it, gets it near side for Lukatz. Now back for Brendan Kelly. Works his way into the box. Far side of the field, Wilkins can't handle the pass. It will roll out of bounds, and Syracuse takes over possession.
Sloppy pass that time by Brendan Kelly, the All-American. And that's something that he does not make very often, those types of mental mistakes. But as I mentioned before, the pace is slowed down quite a bit as the infractions are piling up on both sides of the field. As Syracuse and Johns Hopkins becoming just a little bit too over-aggressive.
The Orangemen will try to get the ball out of their own end. Palin passes the ball ahead of the field to Paul Gate, who scoops up the loose ball. He can't handle it, but does manage to retake it again. Paul Gate takes it into the box. Game tied at 9, 7:16 to play, third quarter. Paul Gate gets loose, quick shot. Knocked away by Kesenich. Rolls away from the net. We have a little bit of pushing and shoving going on in front of the Johns Hopkins net. And another crease violation called against the Orangemen, as that time Paul Gate was the one to get too close to Kesenich.
Kesenich with a bit of a late shot on Paul Gate. He didn't like the idea of Paul coming full steam ahead right into his legs, so he gave him a little bit of a poke check with his goalie stick. Paul retaliated, but no flags were thrown down. So Hopkins will go on the clear. Syracuse on the ride.
Paul Gate felt he was pushed into the crease area by one of the Johns Hopkins defenders, but the call did not go in favor of the Orangemen, and the Blue Jays try to clear. Kesenich back with his defenders, Dwan on the near side, and Brendan Kelly, a midi, back to help out on the far side of the field. Kesenich takes it toward midfield now, gets it far side for Brendan Kelly. Johns Hopkins moving right to left. Wilkins has it, about 20 yards away from the cage on straight away. Near side for Panetta. Checked behind the net by McCabe. Works around the screen, tries to get free in front. McCabe riding him, shot and a score! Fine individual effort by Matt Panetta, his 5th goal of the game. And once again, Johns Hopkins is on top, 10-9.
That time Panetta just won 1-on-1 against Patrick McCabe, and he beat him pretty easily. Patrick McCabe, known as probably the best man-to-man coverer in terms of the defensive side of the ball for Syracuse. It will be interesting to see if McCabe will still continue to check Panetta, or maybe they'll go to Mark Stouffer. Maybe this is where the loss of Jim McNamara begins to hurt just a little bit more, as McCabe is having his hands full with the attackman Panetta.
McCabe gives up 4 inches to Panetta. The bigger offensive player was able to get free for the shot and the goal, and the Blue Jays have a 10-9 lead. A scramble off the faceoff at midfield. The ball is still loose on the turf. Neither team has claimed it just yet. Finally, it comes to Dwan, who will start the clear for Johns Hopkins. Dwan directs traffic, talks a little bit with his goaltender Kesenich. He gets it away near side of the field. for Resin Pollock. Now ahead to Russell. Behind the cage, Heim has it. And he's watched by Stouffer into the game. Tries to get free from Stouffer. Heim circles away from the defender now and drops it back out high for Resin Pollock. Resin Pollock feeds Greg Kelly. He scored earlier, works his way into the box, trying to get the shot off. He will take it. Shot is deflected in front, comes loose, and Patrick McCabe takes it for the Orange men. McCabe circles away from Panetta with a long outlet pass toward midfield. He finds Dan Cahey. Back out high for Greg Burns, 30 yards away from the net. Syracuse trailing 10-9 with 5:05 to play, third quarter. Cahey comes out, Paul Gate comes in. He takes the pass from Burns and makes his way toward the top of the box. Far side of the field, he feeds Maricek. The freshman is watched by Jamie McNeely on defense. He still has the ball in the left corner of the box. Tries to work his way in front, gets free, sees an opening. He is tripped up, shoots and saves Kessinich. Maricek nearly hit the turf after letting that shot go. Kessinich was there to make the save, and quickly Johns Hopkins tries to clear. Steve Ciccarone takes it ahead of the field and gets it away the far side of the field now to Jeff Heim. He's watched by Stouffer. Heim backs away from the defender, drops it off for Brendan Kelly, who gets it to Wilkins. 4:13 to go, third quarter. Hopkins up 10-9. Kelly passes near side for Panetta. He has 5 goals on the day. Works against McCabe. Shot hit the post. Caroms away toward the near side of the field. Rolls out of bounds. Hopkins closest to it. The Blue Jays retain possession. But that time, Syracuse gets a break as Panetta was able to get away from McCabe. Took the shot. It hit the post.
Lucky break for the Orangemen. Panetta has just cranked it up a notch here in this third quarter of play. He was great in the first quarter and struggled a bit in the second quarter as McCabe seemed to get the upper hand, but Panetta is on fire here in quarter number 3.
And he's loose in front of the net. Shot, save Palin. Tough shot for Panetta, and he was knocked hard to the grass after he took it. Palin was there to make the save. The Orange men will try to get the ball out of their own end. 3:38 to play in the third quarter. Syracuse trailing Johns Hopkins 10-9. Stouffer gets it back into the cross of goaltender Palin. As Syracuse tries to work the clear, Palin gets it ahead for Smith. Down the near sideline, Smith has the ball knocked away momentarily, but he does regain control. He's hacked a couple of times by Russell. Ball is still loose and finally taken by Pietramala. Long cross-field pass to Kessinich as Johns Hopkins will try to get the ball out of their own end, and they do successfully. Steve Ciccarone gets it ahead far side for Heim. He's watched by Stouffer as Johns Hopkins resets the offense. Heim has control, 15 yards away from the net on the far side of the field. The Blue Jays moving right to left here in quarter number 3. Wilkins has it now, and he drops it off for the freshman Brian Lukatz. Near side, Brendan Kelly tries to put the moves on Scaramuzzino. Drops it off for Lukatz. He sees an opening. He will shoot. Score! The freshman, Brian Lukatz, with his first goal of the day. And he gives the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays a 2-goal margin, 11-9.
Credit the assist that time to Brendan Kelly, who found a streaking Lukatz coming down the far side as he got by Joe Bonacci and went far side past goaltender Matt Palin with 2:34 to go, third quarter. Kind of mini panic time for Syracuse. This next goal is probably very crucial to their chances of repeating as national champions.
The 7th goal of the season for the freshman from Acton, Massachusetts. He scored on Saturday against North Carolina, and that goal gives Johns Hopkins an 11-9 lead. Off the face-off, Paul Gate controls for the Orangemen. Takes the ball into the box. Takes the shot, tries to spin away from the double team. He does get loose. Passes far side of the field for the freshman Maricek, who gets it out high for Dumpson. Top of the box, Rodney Dumpson tries to put the moves on, works his way in front. Shot attempt is knocked away. He scoops up the ground ball, and his shot is knocked away by Kessinich. Ball rolls out of bounds, but Greg Burns is there to follow for the Orange men, and Syracuse retains offensive possession with 1:59 to play in the third quarter.
Jim Egan coming into the game for Syracuse, and I believe this is the first time that Jim Egan has played in this championship game. Brooke Chase has seen some action along with Andrew Boland up front, but this is probably, it looks indeed to be the first time that Jim Egan has seen action here in this championship game.
I think you're right, John. I think that's the first time actually, that we have seen Jim Egan today. As Paul Gate controls, 10 yards away from the net on the near side of the field. He's hacked by a couple of defenders now. Ball comes loose, but it's retaken by the Orangemen and Gary Gate. 1:30 to go, third quarter. Syracuse down by 2. Gary Gate tries to get loose. Can't quite do it. Still checked hard, 15 yards away from the net. Paul Gate takes the pass from his brother. They're working the hidden ball trick. It doesn't work as Gary Gate still hangs on to the ball. Yet Mala knocks it away. The Orangemen tried a little razzle-dazzle with the hidden ball trick. It didn't work. Johns Hopkins wasn't fooled. Rodney Dumpson has it out high, 25 yards away. He starts his rush into the box. Will try and shoot. Knocked away by Kessenich. Rebound, Greg Burns. He shoots. Save Kessenich. Knocked away. Ball rolls out of bounds. And Clint Kessenich wins the foot race. Johns Hopkins takes over possession. Tremendous individual effort by the Johns Hopkins goaltender to make a couple of saves between the pipes, then to scramble back toward the end line, and Johns Hopkins has possession.
Couple Orangemen with great chances to get goals. Rodney Dumpson just missed, and so did Greg Burns. As the Johns Hopkins bench is just doing a dance on the sidelines as the defenders for the Blue Jays putting on a solid effort here trying to withstand this lead.
The Blue Jays try to work the clear. Near side, Vaughn has it in his long cross. He's watched by Burns. Tries to spin away from the pressure. Dwan knocks it back to Steve Ciccarone. He gets it back behind the net for Kessenich. He almost couldn't handle the pass, but did manage to knock it back in before falling out of bounds, and now it is ruled that he was out of bounds as he made the pass. Syracuse has possession in the Johns Hopkins end with 22 seconds to play in the third quarter. The Orangemen trail it 11-9.
Also checking in, Mark Coattailing for Syracuse, so Roy Simmons Jr. trying to get some new people in this game to get this Syracuse offensive attack going here in quarter number 3 as we draw to a close. Both teams have scored 3 goals here in the third quarter of play, so the third quarter letdown has not occurred for Syracuse, but they have not cranked it up quite yet.
Egan triggers for Paul Gate with 17 seconds to play. Gate tries to get free, even with the pipes far side. Centering pass to Brody, shot hit the side of the net. Ball still loose behind the cage. Rolls away, Hopkins trying to win the battle to get the ball. He can do it. Ball is still loose and rolls away. Scramble for it, far side of the field. Neither team takes possession as time expires in the third quarter of play. So Syracuse not able to get one final shot on net, and the Orangemen have 15 minutes to try and capture their second consecutive national championship. 3 quarters are in the books in the national championship game from College Park, Maryland. Our score, Johns Hopkins 11, Syracuse 9.
JH leads it 11-9 over Syracuse with 15 minutes straight up to go in quarter number 4.
Things dead even in the third quarter as each team scored 3 times. Greg Burns, Joe Bonacci, and Gary Gate with his first goal of the game for the Orangemen. Getting on the board for Syracuse, Jay Clark, Matt Canetta, and John Lukacs scoring for Johns Hopkins. 15 minutes to play, Syracuse down by 2.
And the Johns Hopkins student section making a lot of noise. The Johns Hopkins reserve players throwing their sticks up, trying to encourage the crowd out. They really don't need much help, as they believe their team just may pull it out here with 15 minutes to go. Face-off is won by Mike McGee away from Resin Pollock, and he gives it to Gary Gate on the far side. Gary Gate's got a step on the defender, right-hand cradle shot, just bounces wide of the goaltender Kessenich. Pietramala that time was just a step behind Gary Gate, and that's one of the few times that Gary Gate has had an opening. He did score in quarter number 3, but really it's been a disappointing performance for the junior from BC.
The way Kessenich has played today, he is definitely the finest goaltender Syracuse has faced this season.
Jim Egan brings it up near side, even with the cage being picked up by Russell. Pass in front, Zoborny. Just missed by Rodney Dumpson on the far side. Just missed by about 2 inches. Bringing it out in front is Paulgate. Right-hand cradle behind the back shot. Sails wide of goaltender Kesinich, and it's picked up by Volker on the far side. He absorbs a check from Egan, and now Hopkins will go on the clear. Ciccarone has it ahead to Volker. Passes back to Ciccarone, far side, even with the pipes. Kesinich comes out of his net to receive the pass instead. Ciccarone will keep it himself. Now it does. Dish back to the goaltender. Syracuse employing a very soft ride here, as we have 13:55 to go here in the national championship game for Division I men's lacrosse.
I'm surprised that the Orangemen not going with an aggressive ride, perhaps feeling that there's plenty of time in the fourth quarter for the Orangemen to make a run, but I think they've got to be aggressive coming out of the gate in the fourth quarter.
Lukatz has it 10 yards behind midfield. Now it does get over the midfield stripe, and it comes into the hands of Pat Russell. Comes now on the far side with it as Jeff Ime has it. Receives a pick, now comes out far side, in with the cage, in front. The pass goes astray, and now is finally picked up by Steve Scaramuzino. So the Orangemen survive a scare right there as Ime tried to move in and give Johns Hopkins a 3-goal lead. Syracuse goes on the clear. Patrick McKay brings it over midfield. 30 yards in front of the cage with the right-hand cradle. Brings it now far side for John Zoborny. He'll fling it up, back up top for Greg Burns. They'll slow it up. As the first line of middles are back in for Syracuse, the two Gate brothers along with Rodney Dumpson. Burns brings it near side. Being picked up by Ciccarone. Paul Gate comes top of the box, but Burns doesn't see him. Instead will keep it himself, works behind the net, 10 yards behind the cage. Syracuse employing a slowdown offense here as Burns tries to bring it out on the far side, even with the net, then loses his balance. Nice check by Ciccarone. Volker fights for it, but it is picked up once again by Burns. For Benson, shot score! Rodney Dumpson with the bullet shot. And the lead is trimmed down to 1 at 11-10, and there is Greg Burns once again with the pretty feed. That is assist number 4 for the junior Burns. And Rodney Dumpson, who tallied a goal against Maryland, gets a goal that I would say is just a little bit more important than the one scored against Maryland. It's 11-10 this year.
Without question, for Rodney, his 15th goal of the season. Once again, the flying pass from Greg Burns to spot Dumpson wide open, about 15 yards away from the net to Clint Kesinich's right side. Puts it past him, and Syracuse is within 1.
Brooke Chase comes back into the game for Syracuse. Out comes Jim Egan. Mike McGee taking the face-offs in place of Kirk Pratt, who struggled against Joe Resum-Pollock in the face-off department in the first half of play, but he loses his face-off, an illegal procedure call against McGee. And Hopkins will take over, trying to reestablish a 2-goal possession. Now the referees have changed their mind, decided that the illegal procedure went against Resum-Pollock. So advantage Syracuse. Gary Gate triggers 20 yards in front of the cage. Far side for his brother Paul. Loses control of it. Nice chucking by Volker. Gary picks it up though. Fans questioning a Paul Gate hit. His brother Gary brings it in front and a goal! Gary Gate falling to the ground. Hooks it behind the goaltender Kesinich. A couple of the Hopkins players staring at the crease area, thinking that Gary Gate had indeed fallen into that zone. Referees say no way, and we are even at 11 apiece. That time Gary Gate beat the defender Pietramala. He's been doing that the last couple of minutes, and Gary Gate, who has been quiet for about the first 45 minutes of the game, could this be his wake-up call?
It appears so. His second goal of the game and 51st of the season, and he was partially ridden out of the play by Pietramala, who fell to the turf, but as he was falling, released the shot, put it past Kesinich, and we're tied up.
Off the face-off, the ball rolls into the Hopkins end of the field, but Resum-Pollock has it and gives it back to the goaltender Kesinich. Nice pressure by Greg Burns, but Hopkins is able to avoid it. As that time a pass by McNeely, nearly intercepted by the Z-Man as Billy Dwan tried to get it, and the ball will go over. It appears to Syracuse now we have a discussion between the officials officials. Sloppy pass that time by Jamie McNeely. The ball indeed will go over the Orangemen, so a mental mistake that time by Johns Hopkins as they tried to go on the clear. Credit the nice job on the ride by Zolberti and Burns as their tough play paid off and the Orangemen look to get the lead. Just under 12 minutes to go. Zolberti on the far side. Tries to work one-on-one against Dwan. Goes behind the net for Barnes, being picked up by Ciccolone as Zolberti sets it quick against the man covering Burns in Ciccolone. The Gate brothers trying to set up in front of the cage. Burns still with possession of the ball. He's been the Mr. Assist man this afternoon. Burns brings it out far side, even with the cage. Pass in front for Dumpson, loses control, but Egan has it. Nice poke check by Pietromala. And back comes Johns Hopkins the other way. Nice play by the All-American defender as Rodney Dumpson appeared to have a shot at it, and so did Jim Egan, but the Hopkins defenders on top of the situation right then and there. Brendan Kelly with it, 30 yards in front of the box, in front of the cage. Check it, being picked up by Phil Schluer, down to 11 minutes to go. And now it comes off for Lukács. Near side for Ein, working one-on-one against McCabe. So McCabe is switched, now covering Ein instead of Panetta. McCabe trying to chase after the loose ball on the near side. Stouffer is also down there, and finally Phil Schluer has it. Broken up nicely, but now recovers possession. And tries to bring it over midfield. Being checked by Clark. Comes over midfield on the near side. He's got a couple of teammates in front. Zolberti, near side. Trying to find Paul Gate. And instead of feed it back to Greg Burns. Second line of middies in for Syracuse, Bonacci Hall. And also Dan Cahey. As Burns slows it down. Joe Bonacci doing a little bit of running around. 20 yards in front of the cage, but Earl Hall will take command of the ball. Tries to work down the far side against Pietromala. Earl Hall brings it behind the cage as he swaps positions with Greg Burns. Bonacci receives a check from Volpe, but heads onto the ball. Bonacci getting some instructions from the coaching staff. Tries a couple of spin moves on Dwan. Now finally gets a hole on the near side. He's got some room in front. Keeps it himself in front. Shot. Nice save by Kesenich, but we have a crease violation against Joe Bonacci. But a nice aggressive play there by Bonacci nearly paid off.
Bonacci took a chance of trying to get very close to Kesenich before releasing that ball, and he did. Fell into the crease area. It could have been a goal. It would have been okay, but Kesenich was able to make the save. Bonacci called for the violation, and Johns Hopkins will try to hold.
Last time Hopkins certainly miscued when they went on the clearing attempt. Some nice checking by Zolberti and Burns, but this time Syracuse a little bit lax in their ride attempt as catching it brings it up 5 yards in front of the net. Goes far side for Dwan. Pass comes ahead to Lukács, loses possession of it. Steve Scaramuzzino applies a nice check ball loose at midfield, picked up by the Orangemen. As Rob Pershing had it, then lost control of it, but finally picked up by the freshman Tony Marichuk. Burns got some room on the far side, being picked up by Ciccolone. Behind the net, Zolberti. Close catch with Marichuk. It comes even with the cage. Now to Paul Gate. He's got some room, brings it in the middle. Loses his balance, trips, but keeps possession of the ball. We got a flag down. And here's the whistle. That time Paul Gate had some operating room about 10 yards right in front of the goaltender Kesenich, but he was tripped up. And that's what one of the Hopkins players will be going outfield with 8:58 to go here in the fourth quarter.
1 minute.
Tripping is the violation against the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays as Paul Gate tried to get free with a shot in front.
So Syracuse will go on the man-up opportunity. Tommy Marichuk to trigger the play on the near side. Top of the box for Rodney Dumpson, who scored a big goal just a couple of minutes ago. Gary Gate has it far side. Hopkins setting up in a bit of a 2-3 zone defense as they try to keep this game tied up. Zolberti, even with the cage, spin move, shot, score! John Zolberti with the pretty spin move in front. He kept it himself. All the Hopkins defenders said the Z-Man would pass it. He did not. Orangemen lead 12-11. 8:42 to go, fourth quarter.
Great play by John Zolberti in front of the Johns Hopkins net. Picked the pass, spun away from the defender, and put it into the back of the net. He's pretty excited about the play. Brian Volker. And the Orangemen have their first lead of the fourth quarter, 12-11.
Frustration seems to be setting in on the part of goaltender Tim Kesinich. Every time the Orangemen have scored the last couple minutes, he has complained of crease violations. Should stop complaining and maybe concentrate a little bit more on the goaltending. As off the face-off, we have a violation against Mike McGee, so Hopkins will take over, but now the referees convene and decide that it will go against Johns Hopkins. So the momentum definitely starting to turn in favor of the Syracuse Orangemen. And now we have an illegal procedure call. Looks like it will go against Joe Bonacci as Roy Simmons Jr. talking it over with the official who makes the call, and indeed Hopkins will take over. So a couple of strange calls there. But Hopkins will take it. They'll try to tie this game up with 8:40 to go.
In the second quarter, Mike McGee replaced Kirk Pratt on the faceoffs for the Orangemen, and he has done a terrific job against Jones and Pollock of Johns Hopkins. At times, Syracuse losing the ball on a violation, and the Blue Jays have possession.
On the near side, John Wilkins has it. Feeds it for Ein, being picked up by McCabe. That switch McCabe now with Ein instead of Panetta. And that man, Matt Panetta, has it on the far side. He will be covered by Mark Stouffer. Panetta brings it beyond the net. He's been quiet so far in the last 5 or so minutes. Now tries to bring it out far side, even with the cage. Working one-on-one against Stouffer. Shot. Just sails to the near side and wide. But now we have a flag down. It appears we will have a pushing call against Mark Stouffer. Joe Schluer upset with the call. Let's go, Todd. So Hopkins will retain possession. Up trying to tie this game up at 11 apiece with 8 minutes straight up to go. Wilkins, top of the box for Panetta. They swing around left side. As Sheehan is now into the game for Hopkins. Trying to find some open room in front. Wilkins swings it around on the near side. Comes back to Sheehan for Wilkins. Mike Morrissey just checking in the game. Panetta. Back to Sheehan, top of the box. There's a shot on net. Just goes wide by about 3 feet over the net. That time John Wilkins with the opportunity, but he was double teamed nicely. Steve Scaramuzino, Rob Pershing in there to try to deflect the shot. Hopkins takes over though. Sheehan, 10 yards away. Top of the box, Wilkins. Near side, shot by Morrissey. Blocked nicely away by a couple of Syracuse defenders. Hopkins retains possession now. Sheehan's got some room. Bounce shot. Blocked away nicely by the Orangemen. That time Kirk, a nice play by Bill Tully, and Syracuse is able to bring it over midfield. Steve Scaramuzino has it. He gives a little touch pass to Gary Gate. So Syracuse averts that man down situation. And Gary Gate will go one-on-one against Pietramala. A couple of nice fake moves. Shot. Nice save by Kesinich. Great one-on-one move that time by Gary Gate, but Kesinich was able to come up with a big save as Hopkins a little bit sloppy here on the clear. Nice checking by Marichek. Kesinich out of the net. Burns. Hamilton lost it. A great chance that time by the Orangemen. We will have a whistle. And the foul will go against Johns Hopkins. So it appears to be warding off. Or some call to that effect. So Syracuse will retain possession. Jim Egan back into the game with 6:44 to go here in the final quarter. This game has been a doozer, to say the least.
Tom Marichek did a great job to knock the ball away from Pietramala. Tried to get it in front. Pass was a little bit too high. However, the Orangemen do retain possession.
Paul Gate has it far side, about 25 yards away from the goaltender Kesinich. Tries to bring it in the middle with the left-hand corner. Tries to make a move on Volker. Passes down low for Egan, but we have a whistle and we go against Paul Gate. He's being a little bit too aggressive that time against the defensive midfielder Pat Russell for Hopkins. It's a warding off call against Paul Gate.
The Orangemen doing a better job on offense with a nice passing in front of the Johns Hopkins net. Clint Kesinich has played a superb game in the net. We talked a little bit before that he was, without a question, the best goaltender Syracuse has faced all season. The Orangemen played against Paul Schmoller of Cornell and Sal Ocasio of UMass. But today, Kesinich has been outstanding in net. Although he has given up 12 goals for Syracuse. He has made a number of very nice saves.
Hopkins successful in the clearing attempt. Ciccarone brings it over midfield, gives it to Russell. He's got some room on the near side. Now he'll slow it back out, top of the box for Wilkins. Hopkins looking for the equalizer under 6 minutes to go in the final quarter of playing this NCAA Division I championship game live from Bird Stadium. Kelly tries to make a one-on-one move, but a sloppy pass after he was covered nicely by Syracuse. He tried to dish off to Ein, but he was checked tightly by McCabe. Ball rolls out of bounds, and Syracuse will go on the clear.
Johns Hopkins looks a little rattled on offense. The Blue Jays trying to avoid making mistakes in the offensive end, not playing with the loose intensity they played with in the first half and even into the third quarter. They were able to make those crisp passes in front of the Syracuse net. They haven't done it yet in the fourth. They haven't scored yet in the fourth quarter.
Syracuse taking their time on the clear, and why not? They have the 1-goal advantage with 5:22 to go in the game. Mark Stouffer trying to kill some time behind the net, now flips it ahead for Matt Palin, and he will run it out and brings it over midfield. No one in the goal for Syracuse. Now he finally gives it over to Paul Gate, and Palin retreats back to his own net. Paul Gate will set it up under 5 minutes to go in this championship game. It is 12-11 Orangemen. The number 1 team against the number 2 team. Paul Gate, one-on-one against Volkers. Got some room in the middle. But checked off nicely. Now to Rodney Dumpson on the near side. Rodney tries to make a move. Shot score! Rodney Dumpson with his second tally of the game. Beats Kasanich with the bullet shot. Count the assist to Paul Gate, and Rodney Dumpson, who is not known for his goal-scoring ability, comes up with his second clutch goal of the game. That's goal number 16 in the year for Rodney Dumpson. It is 13-11 Syracuse, and right now things are looking quite pretty for the Orangemen and their followers.
Still plenty of time for Johns Hopkins to get back in. 4 seconds of play, a big goal by Rodney Dumpson, without question the biggest goal in his lacrosse lifetime. His 16th of the season, and Syracuse has a big 2-goal margin, only 2 goals, but it's pretty big in a national championship game with under 5 minutes to go.
That time Rodney Dumpson was able to get away from Jamie McNeely and blast the shot home. And off the face-off, Hopkins controls as the ball rolled out of bounds, so the face-off man Joe Resin-Pollock successful in that attempt against Mike McGee, who continues to take the face-offs in place of Kirk Pratt, who struggled in the first half of play. Trailing for a good portion of this title game as we capture the lead here in the fourth quarter and held on. They lead 13-11, 4:33 to go in the contest as Panetta will trigger for Hopkins. Comes down on the near side, being picked up by McCabe. So McCabe has decided to take Panetta. Panetta has been giving McCabe trouble throughout much of the contest. Nice poke check by McCabe, but Panetta tracks the ball down on the far side. Trying to work one-on-one against Patrick. Loses control of the ball once again. Nice double team. Scaramuzino there to help out as well. And McCabe picks up the loose ball. Pass for Palin. Intercepted by Hopkins. Open net. Shot. Great save by Palin. Ball rolling around. There's a shot and another save. As that time, John Wilkins put the shot on net. Some intense pressure being applied by Hopkins, but the goaltender, Matt Palin, equal to the task. Rob Pershing throws his arm up in a mini Caesar salute as they averted disaster there, a wide open net. As a Hopkins player had an empty net but could not cash it home. Kelly now for Luquetz, top of the box. He'll come in on the right-hand cradle, being picked up by Pershing. Hopkins swinging around in a clockwise fashion. Panetta, again, being hooked up against McCabe on the far side, even with the net, trying to do it all by himself. Not wise thinking on his part. Luquetz now for Wilkins on the near side. He loses control of it. Nice checking by Phil Schluter. Ball right on the out-of-bounds line. Diving effort by Schluter to keep it in play. Eim tries to fight for it. Now Wilkins has it. And finally we have a whistle down, and the call will go against Johns Hopkins for, I believe, a push. Phil Schluter doing a bit of a dance. He's happy with that call.
Johns Hopkins has to feel the loss of not being able to connect on that open net goal. Matt Palin was able to get back in position to make the save. Then the Blue Jays had another attempt at a score. The shot didn't find the back of the net. The Blue Jays have to feel perhaps this game starting to slip away just a little bit as we head toward 3 minutes to go.
Stouffer has it. He brings it over midfield. Syracuse did not get much pressure that time on the ride by the Blue Jays. He plays catch with Paul Gant on the near side, then retreats back into his own defensive zone. Andrew Bolin comes off the field. Back in comes Gary Gate. Orangeman looking for a bigger cushion here. It's at 2 with 2:45 to go in the game. Marichek behind the net being picked up by McNeely. Trying to find Zolberti, who was also behind the net, but he's being covered nicely by Dwan. Now Tommy comes out near side, even with the cage. Passes for Zolberti. It's a sloppy one. It's picked up by Hopkins. McNeely now for Kesenich. Hopkins has got to score quickly. They trail by 2, and we are approaching 2 minutes to go in this title game. Ciccarone has it right at midfield. Holding the ball with the left-hand cradle. Now for Kelly. Trying to go one-on-one against Schluter, who's turned in another superb effort. But what else is new for the senior from Lawrenceville Academy? Wilkins going one-on-one against Scaramuzino. Got some room. Shot, score! John Wilkins with the tally. Steve Scaramuzino was lying down on the ground in shock that Wilkins was able to get by him. And now, a little bit more nail-biting on the Syracuse side of the field for the fans and both the coaches and players. Goal number 20 for Wilkins. The lead is trimmed down to 13-12, 2:03 to go.
Wilkins' second goal of the game. A big, big goal, and that gets the Blue Jays right back in it. Both teams very aggressive. A lot of electricity down on the field right now. Just over 2 minutes to go. Syracuse up by 1.
Face off again. McGee tries to fight for it along with Rosen Pollock, and it is won by Hopkins. Then McGee applies a nasty check to the head of Pietramala. But Hopkins retains possession, will set up to try to get the tying goal. Kelly has it on the far side. As he looks for Rosen Pollock, inside will keep it himself, going one-on-one against Gary Gate. Kelly is trying a couple spin moves. Top of the key for Wilkins, who just scored, trying to work against Scaramuzino. Nice poke check by the co-captain, Steve Scaramuzino. Ball loose on the turf, and finally picked up by Patrick McCabe on the far side. Great play. That time by Stevie Scaramuzino. Now Matt Palem has it. There is no one in the net. Palem 30 yards in front of his own cage. And he will finally dish off to Gary Gate with 1 minute to go in this championship game. No doubt Syracuse will try to kill the clock. And the fans are starting to badger Johns Hopkins, starting to badger the Syracuse players for trying to kill the clock, kind of similar to the UMass game. Gate working one-on-one against Volker. And now we will have a timeout as head coach Roy Simmons Jr. will decide to talk it over with his troops as we have 48 seconds to go in this championship game. Interesting to see what head coach Roy Simmons Jr. will indeed tell his troops. Probably the key is just not to commit any mental mistakes. Now obviously passing will be one key. Crisp passes, nothing fancy, no behind the back plays, just keep everything very elementary. They do not have to score just as long as they keep the ball. Possession is the key, not scoring.
The Orange Men are just 48 seconds away from their second consecutive national championship in front of 23,893 fans here at Byrd Stadium. The NCAA record for collegiate lacrosse game. This fourth quarter, the tides turned. The Orange Men scored 4 times, and Johns Hopkins just once. And the many fans that have made their way down from Syracuse are roaring their approval for the Orange Men, less than a minute away from their second consecutive title. The Blue Jays looked very rattled on offense most of the fourth quarter. They did have a couple of chances to put the ball into the net. They couldn't do it. Wilkins scored a couple of minutes ago, very late in the fourth quarter. But if the Orange Men don't cough up the ball with a bad pass, Syracuse should hang on for the title.
In 1983, Syracuse won 17-16 to win the title game. It was a one-goal margin again at 13-12. Greg Burns has it far side, even with the net against Ciccarone. Clock down to 40 seconds for Jim Egan, who was checked into the game. Syracuse working the ball in a clockwise fashion, trying to kill that precious clock. Gary Gate has it. He loses control of it. Ball rolled around at midfield. We're down to 25 seconds. It's a mad scrum right at the midfield stripe. Rodney Dumpson tries to pick it up, cannot. McNeely chases after. Nice hustle by Dumpson. Loses control of it though, as Panetta tries to recapture possession. Here comes Hopkins with 12 seconds. Ime tries to take control of the ball, and the officials have signaled that Hopkins will have possession, and then head coach Don Zimmerman decides to take a timeout with 12 seconds to go in the game. One final chance for the Blue Jays, and no doubt Panetta will probably be the main man and try to tie this game up and send it into overtime.
Johns Hopkins head coach Don Zimmerman making the call for the timeout to talk things over with his Blue Jays. The Blue Jays cheering section making a lot of noise. Just 12 seconds to play, and as soon as Johns Hopkins took possession after that scramble for the ball, Zimmerman signaled he wanted to talk it over with his Blue Jays, and I would have to agree that Panetta is the main man on the offense. He is sure to see the ball. I don't know if he would be the one to take the shot. It would go to whoever is open. I would imagine in front of the Syracuse cage. The Orange men just 12 seconds away from capturing another national title that the Blue Jays are letting.
Great job, though, to Syracuse in terms of killing the clock. They did the best job they possibly could. Rodney Dumpson, kudos to him. A great job of just letting the ball continue to roll around. He was diving over everybody. As we have 12 ticks on the clock to go, Hopkins will set up in the Syracuse defensive end.
Credit Dave Pietramala for knocking the ball away from Gary Gate to give the Blue Jays this possession.
Brian Lucas will set it up for Hopkins. And now Roy Simmons Jr. decides to talk it over with his troops after seeing the offensive alignment set up by head coach Don Zimmerman for his Blue Jays. And so it'll be interesting to see what Simmons says to his troops. Now maybe a different defensive formation. I see the chalkboard coming out to the defensive squad. There's a little bit of a chalk talk going on among the defensive players.
This game certainly has not lacked any drama. It is coming down to the final 12 seconds of the game. Syracuse leading Johns Hopkins 13-12 before close to 24,000 fans here at Byrd Stadium on a gorgeous afternoon for lacrosse. The Orange men trying to be tough on this defensive stand here so Syracuse can try and capture that second straight title. The Blue Jays and the Orange men back and forth all afternoon long, trading goals. I believe the biggest lead of the day was just 2 goals. We'll make that 3. Johns Hopkins led it 8-5 towards the end of the second quarter. Paul Gates scored before the end of the half to make it 8-6. But this game has been tremendous throughout. Syracuse and Johns Hopkins in a gem this afternoon.
Indeed, 24,000 to paid attendance. With the way they're shouting, it feels more like 50,000. And there's the man, Panetta. He will start it up on the far side, 30 yards away from the cage. He'll be pounded indeed by Patrick McCabe. We're down to 10 seconds. Panetta will take it one-on-one, trying to work into the zone. He's got Wilkins in front, down to 5. Behind the pack for Ime in front. Shot, save with 1 second, and that's it. That's it. Matt Palin rose to the occasion. And Syracuse University, the Kings of Lacrosse in 1988, have been crowned as champs. Once again in 1989, Matt Palin is being swarmed. It is a mad pile down by the Syracuse goal. Johns Hopkins players indeed very dejected, standing on the sideline in disbelief. Hopkins just seemed to wait too late as Ime had it behind the net, tried to dish it off in front, and then time just expired. A great defensive effort by the Orangemen.
Patrick McCabe with a nice defense on Panetta in front of the net. Maybe he did wait a couple seconds too long before feeding Ime behind the net, but the Syracuse Orangemen have repeated as national champions.
Final score again is Syracuse 13 and Johns Hopkins 12. As Syracuse University University has won their 3rd national championship in lacrosse here in the 80s, and indeed, we have the makings of a dynasty. Don't forget, Orange Overtime is coming up next. Ted DeLuca will be on the field to talk to the victorious Syracuse Orangemen players and also head coach Roy Simmons Jr. So stay tuned for that. Again, your final score: Syracuse 13, Johns Hopkins University 12. The Orangemen are again #1 in the sport of lacrosse.
Oh, you want to take over now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mikey! Mike! Mike! Okay, what's up, home? Okay. Yeah, you want to plug that in for me? Yeah! I'll tell you right now. It was 11-9 Hopkins. No, I imagine, have Ian take it for a couple minutes because it's going to take a while. I imagine we'll have interviews going here in about 7 minutes or so. Okay, fine. I just want to ask Ted a quick question. I'll be back on the headset in a second. Okay.
Okay. I'm in queue right now.
Okay.
Right, and I'll start transmitting in a couple of minutes.
Okay, flip her on. And so, but I have to flip it back to local to talk to be on the air, right?
No.
So I can leave it in normal the whole time?
You can leave